Oh shit, here we go again.
Low, low, man. Low, low, man.
You like contracts, right? You're a contract guy.
I read contracts instead of conventional pornography, yes.
Maybe I have a chance. You goddamn crocodile! Go back to the fucking Florida! Go back to the Florida, you fucking crocodile!
I haven't used the Henya one in a while, so I had to bring up a little Henya. Appreciate everyone joining today. Today, we're going to be talking about the claims from Ironmouse that will kill VShojo, and particularly after the case on stream, which I have watched, and we're going to talk about that. It's incorporated in the PP today. We have a quite substantial PowerPoint today. I think it's 16 slides, and more than that is going to be me ranting. The swear jar will be full today. By the way, we have a swear jar emoji just in time for this. Type swear as a member. That's the keyword for the swear jar emoji. We're gonna need it today. We're gonna need it today because today we're gonna be talking about some insane corpo BS, some insane stuff, and we're gonna go deep on the analysis. We are going to watch the video from Ironmouse because I believe that's the respectful thing to do to her, to let her say it in her voice. That is not in my fast facts version. I just summarized that. That will come out in like 2 hours or so, or I might have to move it back depending on how long this one goes. If we get a Doki Bird 7-hour stream, then we'll see. I am going to, we're already getting some massive, we're getting a lot of super chats here. So I am today going to kind of implement the, I'm going to read a couple in the beginning, and then we're going to get into it. And I'm not going to read any till the very end. I'm going to save them all for the end. All your questions, everything else like that, your comments, I'm going to save them all for the end. So we're all on the same page. And so I get through the legal presentation. Things get crazy, that happens. And I will stay here till we get through all the questions. Every single question will be answered today. But I'll get through a couple right now and some memberships. Wildcade, welcome as a new member. Jonathan Hogan says apparently they owe Case on enough money to pay for a new Ferrari. Well, they owe her money from September of 2024. So yeah. Honor Sharp for 50 said, oh, this is a good morning going straight from Madam Savvy live to Legal Mindset. This is awesome. I haven't been able to catch this live for everyone. Welcome. DTZ UT, welcome as a member. Magma Fox says, hey, 16 months. It feels like it's only been 4. Man, VShojo imploding wasn't something I'd expect to happen in the span of one day. Support Mouse, support the IDF, support all the talents. Yes. And by the way, guys, the pinned comment, and I'm going to bring this up a couple times, is the Immune Deficiency Foundation. So you can go and donate to that if you wanted to go to the cause that was shafted out of their money by VShojo based on the allegations. And I have every reason to believe at this point that they are credible allegations. Once again, I have to say that they're allegations for purposes, right? But I have every reason to believe, based on not just Ironmouse, but the balance of talents speaking out, that these are legitimate. So we are going to be doing our analysis today, assuming what the talents say is legitimate, right? And assuming this isn't some grand conspiracy on behalf of Ironmouse and her friends, etc., doing stuff. I'm going to take what they said is credible and do my analysis, given that what they said is credible. I think they've earned that, and I think they've earned that presumption, at least for the purpose of my analysis. Junie says, support Mousy. Agree. Dragon's Treasure said, I paid Vices and still pay you in potentially criminal on a trust me bro system, and still pay you all despite being borderline destitute. That's entirely right. VShojo practically has a money printing machine. This is insane. I know. It's insane. And the insane thing was, based on case on stream, we now know they were paying their staff, but they were not paying the talent. And there's a specific legal reason for that. And this very much indicates to me, as a corporate attorney, that VShojo is going to be no more. All the flags, all the signs here are for the complete death of VShojo one way or another. And I think I know the way it's going to go, but we'll talk about that. Warranty Void for 20. Thank you so much. Is this Kurosanji? This is worse than Niji Sanji. This is worse than Niji Sanji, because Niji Sanji, remember when Niji Sanji happened, those kids that were around back then, back when the Doki Bird stuff went down back last year, I was very harsh on Niji Sanji. But at no point, in fact, I said quite the contrary, would this sink Niji Sanji. I was very clear that Niji Sanji was going to lose the PR battle, was going to lose the good favor, was going to lose the English market, but they weren't going to go under. I never said that. In this case, I am very confident that VShojo is heading to the tank. This one is one where I can say, nope, I'm going to put my chips on this one. If I'm going to bet on this one, I'm betting on VShojo going under. I'm betting on VShojo. So in this way, this is going to be worse than Niji Sanji. In that way. Agent Strawman gave the 10 illegal mindset memberships. I'm going to catch up. What I'll do is I'll get the memberships and then we're going to start. Court give 5 legal memberships. Thank you so much. Scientific Fan Fiction, welcome as well. The J-Man669, welcome. Circadian Dizzy, welcome as a member. Robert Von Beek for 5 and JP for 10. Thank you guys all so much for the generous membership.
Yes.
So Devastator and then Armand said, thank you for bringing legal accountability here. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now. I will say this in full disclosure, I am not their attorney. Ironmouse has indicated she has an attorney, and I would recommend that all the other girls, if they don't have one, should consult a local attorney or a California attorney, which is where VShojo is headquartered. We're going to talk about that. But they need to talk to attorneys and rely on their attorneys. And I do trust they're hiring competent attorneys that know what they're saying and can trust what they're saying. A lot of what we're going to explain today is for the education of the public. It's not for telling them what to do. If they speak to an attorney, that attorney will be able to tell them what to do personally for their individual case. And I trust that Ironmouse's attorney will handle this very competently. But it's to give you guys the angle and also say some of the things that they can't say. They frankly cannot speak as freely as I can because I'm not under an NDA. I'm not under another restriction. I'm not under risk of their lawsuit, whatever else. They can come at me, bro. None of this is defamatory. It's all based on public statements. So once again, I can say certain things they can't. And that gives you guys a little bit of a window into what's going on here in the weird corpo world. Crazy Man UA, welcome as a member. Johnny4167, welcome as a member. Tommy Eklund says, VShojo, we're supposed to be the good guys. I have the quote from Kason. The best quote. Talent first, my ass. We've got that today. Magmafoss, thank you for the 5. Crouseable, thank you for the 10. Doug Diaz, thank you for the 5 as well. And I think we're almost caught up here. Agent Strawman and Chuin Neko says, Dear VShojo, don't be a Kuro Sanji. Okay, we're going to just run off with that. I'll get this one here. Gamercron give 5. Thank you. I will get everything else. We'll go order from largest to smallest a little bit later, but I will get all other chats at the end. So super chats, you can send them as you get your questions. All will be answered. Every single one. I'm not leaving until I finish every single question. Okay, let's jump right into it, guys. Let's jump right into it. With what happened here with Ironmouse ending VShojo. Now, it's very important that we think about this and understand. I always put a little flag here for the jurisdiction. This is going down in America. This is going down in America because VShojo is a U.S. company, and Ironmouse, even as a Puerto Rican resident, is still able to file claims in U.S. court. This completely changes the game for the analysis. The analysis for HoloLive and for Niji Sanji and the Japanese corporations doesn't apply here. This applies America rules, right? Which makes it very different of a scenario than the stuff that was happening in Japan with them abusing overseas talent. It's a much different one. And not just America. Oh, no, not just America. California. It's one case in which I am going to be glad about their strong protections. So let's continue here. Obviously, we had the piece from Ironmouse. Now, like I said, in my Fast Facts version, I will not play this, but here I do want you guys to hear from her. I'm going to pause a couple times and I won't play 100% of it. We'll get to where she's talking about the relevant parts, but I want you to hear it from her. And I want anybody that's not caught up on this to have some background here. So here's from her lips what happened.
I am leaving VShojo. Unfortunately, I recently found out that for the past couple of months, I have been misled by VShojo. With the information that I currently have, I believe that I am owed a significant amount of funds.
So stop there. Claim number 1, unpaid wages or unpaid payments, right? Now they're going to try to say she's an independent contractor and that's a payment. And we're going to talk about that status because that's very relevant. The whole battle I've been fighting since Niji Sanji is to make an understanding that VTubers, the talent, are employees. They're not independent contractors, because the level of control, even in VShojo, and I've seen the contract, even in VShojo, I think they should be classified as employees, at least under the scope of labor law. They've not paid her. That's number one, right? So just put that down as number one. Then we're going to get to number two.
Which I have not been paid. And most importantly, the thing that hurts me the most is that the Immune Deficiency Foundation, which is the most important charity to me, and also the reason why I'm here today, is owed over $500,000 from
Over $500,000 that was misallocated or otherwise not transferred to the charity by VShojo. That is potentially criminal. That is very, very, very extreme. And that's the one where there's massive amounts of liability on VShojo for $500,000 of misallocated charity stuff. That's where people can go to prison. Not for the wages stuff. The wages stuff is moral, and yeah, they have to pay it out, but there might be try to fighting that, and there's ways they can fight that. We're going to talk about bankruptcy. But the charity stuff, that's where you don't F around. And that's where, and that's also what gets me really mad, because this is a charity, and you're going to hear it from her in her own voice. But this is a charity that is near and dear to her. It relates to her condition. It's something that people have been passionate about. Connor VA has been helping her out for a while. People have been gifting her for this. Like her or not, as a human being, you can empathize with that condition, which is extremely severe and which restricts your life in such a horrible way. And any way in which you could try to alleviate that or make that better is certainly a net good or a net benefit for humanity. And to shaft them out of their money, to not pay them, it's worse than not paying the wages. That's a level of disgustingness that is even beyond a wage. Right now, not paying the wage is also bad, right? But it's, to me, in my mind, and this is my personal opinion, not legal opinion, I think that's terrible. I think it's horrible. And once again, it's not just her that was disappointed about this. It's the donors. It's the donors as well. The donors gave that money thinking it was going to go to charity, not going to pay VShojo and not going to deal with their financial problems, which we're going to talk about.
VShojo. I know that this is a lot, and it's very important for me to be honest with all of you. I really want to tell you everything, but unfortunately right now, I have been instructed by my attorney to wait for more of the legal procedure to unfold.
And I'm going to talk to you about this. So hear what she just said. She said, wait for the legal procedure to unfold. I thought about this a lot, and I did a lot of research today, and I was thinking about this. I put on my little lawyer hat, and I woke up because, by the way, guys, this all happened while I was sleeping. So when I woke up and I saw this, it was a 5-alarm fire, and I was immediately doing research. I was immediately working on this. I've been working on this all day for you guys, thinking about this all day for you guys. When she said that, she didn't say, I'm under an NDA and I can't speak about it. She didn't say that. She said, I'm going to wait for the legal process. That's a much different thing. So what I will say to you guys is respect the girls, respect where they're at. Don't try to push them for more information, because there's a lot they can't say because they're waiting on the legal process. And their own lawyer might say, even though you could say this, even though we're going to be able to get rid of the NDA and get rid of the confidentiality and we're going to get you out from under that, you shouldn't say it yet, or you should wait till this thing goes forward. I respect that. I respect their attorney's decision. I think that's fine. So I would say, please, please, please do not pressure the talents or their friends or whatever to say more than they can right now, because there are things they just literally cannot talk about. But what that means is that she does not feel, and I believe her attorney probably doesn't feel, that whatever NDA and confidentiality provisions were applied to her, which based on my review of a previous VShojo contract, they do exist. They are in the standard contract that I saw, not her contract, but a previous contract from VShojo. Those provisions would be thrown out based on what happened. And there's nothing in any contract that can stop you from dealing with wrongs, whether it's unpaid payments or reporting a crime of misallocation of charity funds, right? There's nothing in any contract in the world that's going to stop you from talking about a charity not getting $500,000. Let's continue.
So one day I will be able to tell you the full story. But for now, I just need to let you know that I will no longer be a part of VShojo. If you
Good.
give me a moment of your time, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I know for a lot of people right now that this might be the first time you're ever watching me. I became a VTuber because
And I know that's true, by the way, for a lot of my audience. A lot of my audience, some of you guys out there are not VTuber fans. For those that don't know, Ironmouse is not just one of the most talented VTubers, she's one of the most popular VTubers. She's broken several records. She's of wild acclaim. She's wildly popular. She's loved by her fans. This is a absolutely outstanding talent in the world. And if there's any proof, you know, I always say to people that are VTuber skeptics, if there's any proof that VTubing can allow people a life that is so different than what they would have without VTubing, it's Ironmouse. Ironmouse was able to shine because she was a VTuber. So she's absolutely, I would say, out there in the largest players in the industry at all out there in the world, right? I think that's fair to say. I think that's objective based on data. And I think that's very, very important to the context of all of this, is that she is massive, she is beloved, and she's talented.
I really wanted to make friends.
And by the way, I say that whether you think she's your Oshi or not. You don't need her to be your Oshi or be your number one, or you don't even need to like her like strongly. You just appreciate her skills. You know, even people I don't like, I appreciate who they are, right? Even if it's not somebody that's your number one, you can still appreciate their talents, their benefits. And Ironmouse has brought so much to VTubing. I think that's praiseworthy, right? And certainly the work she's done for charity is absolutely praiseworthy.
Only due to the fact that I have a primary immune deficiency disease called CVID. I basically have a low to near non-functioning immune system, which means I get sick a lot, and it caused me to remain isolated for long periods of my life. So then I found streaming, and I thought about giving it a try because I wanted to see if I could make some friends online, because I honestly couldn't ever leave my room. I never really expected to grow an audience or anything. It was one of the last things on my mind. I just thought that I would stream to, 5 to 10 people and just hang out from time to time, make some friends, play games, and just continue on with my life. But unfortunately, I was too scared to stream with my face. So a friend of mine recommended that I try an app called FaceRig that would allow me to use an anime avatar to stream. And that's how I started VTubing. It took me a while to take it seriously and even begin to think about maybe being able to grow a community and even make this a career. I think I really started to take it seriously around the time when I was approached to join VShojo, and it was through VShojo that I was able to grow into the Ironmouse that I am today. When I was approached in 2020 and asked to join VShojo, it seemed like a good idea, but I honestly did not know if I could ever be a corporal VTuber because I felt like I just couldn't. In my mind, I saw myself as unhireable, which is why streaming worked for me. I had no boss, no strict rules, I had no hours.
And by the way, that's a massive, massive benefit of streaming, right? And especially if you're indie, especially if you're working for yourself, especially if you're somebody who's able to dictate your own time, that is a massive benefit of streaming, is you're able to do what you want on your own. And that's, by the way, the key to their argument that you're an independent contractor, because you've got a lot of flexibility for that, because you don't have like a direct, maybe a direct boss, right? Maybe you have direction or requirements for streaming, minimum requirements, but you don't have anybody saying, hey, you have to stream at X time. Hey, you need to stream maybe a couple times a week or whatever quota per month, but you don't have to stream every single day, right, et cetera, or you don't have to stream at this X time every single day. You feel bad, you can take some time off. You can move the stream time like I did when I wanted to bump it back an hour to give Kason some room to breathe. I think that's an amazing thing. And I think for a girl like her that would have trouble in a traditional employment context, I mean, it'd be very difficult for a employer to accommodate a condition like hers, I think was a golden opportunity to be able to say, hey, you can be in a safe, sanitary, clean environment that it's safe for you and be able to do this. It's a unique thing that really only happens in our era, right? In another era, this would not be possible. But in this era, Ironmouse is a thing. It was an amazing thing. So I think that's one of the, kind of white pill good things about the place we're at right now in history and technology, is that people like Ironmouse can be given a voice.
No expectations. It was all up to me. And due to the fact that I have lived my life chronically ill and being unable to do much of anything, I just felt like there was no way that anyone would ever take me or want me. For a while, I was struggling to make a decision because I was afraid about my anonymity and afraid about trusting people, because I felt like every time I put my trust in people, it always ends in grief for me. So I was worried about expectations and 1,000,001 other things. But I ultimately decided to join VShojo. It really pains me that I am unable to fully explain why I am leaving. But for right now, here's what I am allowed to share with you.
So this is what she probably was told by her lawyer. So I imagine she had a conversation with her lawyer, and this is what she's allowed to say based on what her lawyer said. Okay, you can say this part.
I would always be told how important I was for the company. And I was always told that I was needed in order for the company to succeed. Although that was very positive to hear, it put a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on me, to the point where I felt guilt tripped into signing. I felt responsible for everybody. I felt responsible for staff and talent alike. And I felt like if I didn't do this and if I didn't stay, I was hurting everybody. And
This is by the way, this is corporate gaslighting. Just to understand, this is absolutely corporate gaslighting, and this is something that can happen to a top tier player in the system, especially if they see you as vulnerable to that. So it seems like it seems like, based on what you're saying, which I have no reason to believe is not true, that they were gaslighting her up to say, hey, look, you're supporting everything. You're our number one star. You're keeping this alive. If you go away, we won't be able to pay our bills. We won't have to keep the lights on, which, by the way, I do believe this is true. And I do believe that they're already losing money. So without Ironmouse, without their stars, and particularly, Kason, the others, they're financially dead in the water. There's no way that if they were losing money beforehand, which we're going to talk about, they're able to recover after losing their most profitable VTubers. That's ridiculous, right? That's absolutely preposterous. Like, there's no loan in the world that would be given to these people to make up for the income that's coming in. It's just not going to happen. Beyond that, what they did to her was absolutely abusive, because they knew that they could withdraw her payments with telling her, hey, we need this for the company. We need this to keep the staff paid, right? To keep the people that you love at the company, right? And abusing her personal relationships with staff to keep from paying her, withhold payments, etc. Absolutely disgusting corporate behavior.
was destroying everybody's life, but this didn't feel right with me, and I began to feel extremely uncomfortable. As my viewers know, privacy has always been one of my biggest concerns. I've had a lot of scary experiences in my life, so one amazing thing for me was the fact that VShojo handled all my payments, and it meant that I never had to give out any of my personal information. So that was always a blessing to me. As time went on, I decided that I wanted to try to start pulling out my remaining funds, because I wanted to start taking over my own finances. This is what led me to this point. Throughout the years...
So that's a good implication there. So listen to what she said. Pulling out my money. So what they probably did, and this is a speculation, but it's a fair speculation on the way she just said that, What they probably did was instead of paying her, they said, oh, we're going to put your money aside and we'll pay you later. Well, they weren't putting it aside. They were putting it into people's pockets. That's very likely what was happening. I mean, she wasn't paid. So ultimately, they didn't put it aside because they would have just paid her, right? When she asked for the money, they would have said, hey, here's the check. You're done. You're off the hook. They didn't do that. So they were taking the money and putting it elsewhere. That's very, very much. Yeah, it's an IOU under the trust me, bro provision.
Connor and I have raised around $4 million for the Immune Deficiency Foundation. The majority of the money raised is through Tiltify at events like the Cyclothon, the charity auction, and other miscellaneous events that we've had. However, because of the success of my first subathon, I decided to donate half the earnings of my following 2 subathons to the Immune Deficiency Foundation. The first time I tried this, it worked great. Over 200,000 people supported me, and because of that, we raised over $329,350 to the Immune Deficiency Foundation. Because the money came from my Twitch revenue instead of a Tiltify link, it required VShojo to make the donation on my...
That's the key there. There's the key, guys. It wasn't a direct donation. It was through the funding mechanism controlled by Twitch. The funding mechanism controlled by VShojo. So VShojo controlled that revenue stream. That's the legal key here. And now, what the link in the description is the Tiltify link, which is direct to the charity, right? So if you feel to donate to that, it's not going to go to VShojo's pocket. So once again, if you feel like making up for this, or feel like giving a little bit, or maybe you just heard about Ironmouse now and you feel sympathetic or empathetic for the story, please go ahead and donate. I'm going to donate to it as well. So everybody, that link is pinned in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the comments after the video, just so you guys know.
My behalf. They promptly sent the payment, and the subathon was a huge success. So I decided to do it again the next year. My last subathon was one of the biggest events I've ever done. The support was overwhelming, and I ended up getting over 300,000 subscribers and breaking the all-time sub record. But this also meant that we had raised $515,000 for the Immune Deficiency Foundation. I once again asked VShojo to make the donation on my behalf, but unfortunately, still a year later, VShojo has not paid the charity.
There is no reason why VShojo would not pay after 1 year. Let me be very clear about this. I understand what a corpo might try to do with delaying payment to a charity. What they might try to do is they might try to wait for the tax year, because maybe they're like, okay, we want to donate in this tax year because we want to deduct this. So we're going to deduct this from our taxes by donating in a certain tax year. It's been 1 year. They've had time to do that. If they were trying to play with like, oh, our year and our fiscal year ends in September. So, this was happening in, early 2024. We're going to do it in late 2024, whatever. Okay, maybe, sure, maybe. It's 1 year later. There's no legitimate reason for not paying that money out after 1 year. There's no reason they can come up or excuse they can come up with that would say, oh yeah, we were really intending to pay that. We always intended to pay that. No, there's no really legitimate reason for not directing those funds to the charity at this point, 1 year later.
Immune Deficiency Foundation means the world to me. Connor and I have both spent a ton of energy.
By the way, reason other than they don't have the cash and they already spent it. That's not a legitimate reason.
Time and resources raising money for charity. And we're both so proud to be able to say that we've raised nearly $4 million for charity. We almost always raise money for the Immune Deficiency Foundation. They help people with primary immune deficiency diseases, or PI, which are inherited disorders where a part of the body's immune system is missing or doesn't function properly, which makes people like me more prone to infection. And this includes over 450 different conditions. The Immune Deficiency Foundation is a charity that is near and dear to my heart and has a particular significance in my life. When my health first started getting really bad, the Immune Deficiency Foundation helped me immensely when I really had nowhere else to turn.
Sorry, and someone bring up the Amber Heard argument, like I pledged to donate. Yeah, no, that's not going to work here, guys, because they were the fiduciary of that money, and it was directed clearly and intended for the immunodeficiency fund. So I just want to debunk the like she's going to do the Amber Heard thing. That's not going to work in the scenario, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that analysis.
I was terrified. I was lonely, and I was confused. I honestly didn't really know what was going on, and I never ever want anyone else to go through that. This entire situation has broken me. I just wanted to do something good and to give back to a community that helped me. But unfortunately, that's not the case. As much as I would like to continue to talk about this, unfortunately, I can't. So, to recap, I believe that I am owed a significant amount of funds, which I have not been paid.
Number one.
And most importantly, the Immune Deficiency Foundation
Number two
is owed over $500,000 from VShojo. I really wish that I could tell you more, but right now, I have been advised to wait for legal proceedings. As of right now,
she said it twice. So, guys, that was not a mistake. She literally said it twice in a specific language. I've been advised to wait for legal proceedings. That's a very specific thing she said, and that means something.
I am an independent VTuber. I am at a loss of what to do right now. I'm kind of processing everything. I'm very sad and very confused. Once again, I want to apologize to the Immune Deficiency Foundation and to my community who has shown so much support to me. I also wanted to say that all the ad money made from this video will go towards the Immune Deficiency Foundation. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said, I really haven't had much time to process this. But below the video in the description box is a link to a donation fund for the Immune Deficiency Foundation. Thankfully, any donations made through Tiltify go directly to the charity.
So that's why we're using that link. So I'm going to put that one there because it kind of ends with the charity stuff. But that's Ironmouse, and that's why I have the Tiltify one in my pinned, because that's the one she endorses, and that goes direct to the charity. So that's why that is indeed there. Okay. So you've got the background. You guys understand what went down with Ironmouse. We've also got 9,000 people in here. Once again, welcome. Get situated. We just watched the Ironmouse video. If you're just checking in, also everybody with Super Chat, just so you know, they're going to wait till the end, and I will get every single question at the end. Okay, so let's get back to this PP, shall we? So we had the Ironmouse explanation, and then the other killer piece in this part is absolutely essential. It's essential reading. Now, I will confess that I am not fully fluent in Japanese, but I was relying on some translations, which were pretty reliable, and some folks that speak Japanese that were kind of translating it as it goes, as well as Kei-san kind of recapping everything and confirming the major facts I'm going to state today. So while there may be some things that slip through the cracks in terms of what the CEO said that I may not have picked up on, the general strokes make it very, very clear what's going on here. So what was said during this particular exchange? Well, some of the most pertinent information, there's really three things. First of all, this is VShojo's Japanese CEO, but I think that is a misleading title, and you need to be very careful about this. It is very misleading. There is not a separate legal entity for Japan. There is one entity. It's American, and that's it. The division between Japanese branch and, let's say, American branch is as different as the difference between the HR department and the sales department. It's all an internal distinction. It does not matter legally, and it will not protect the company as a whole. They can't sever off the Japanese version, say, oh, well, Japan's going to stay alive and not have any liability. No, they can't do that. Now, I will say one thing, listening to this, I don't think this particular guy is the villain here. He is not high enough in the VShojo hierarchy to deal with the overall machinations and operations of the company. We're going to talk about the CEO and also the COO, Chief Operations Officer. Those guys are way more culpable here for the overall operations of the company. I don't think this guy is necessarily the number one villain here, right? He had a job to do. He kind of really, in most senses, instead of thinking like Japanese CEO, I would think of him like the Japanese manager. Like he managed the Japanese talent, like Japanese branch manager, people are saying. But it's not even an official branch. It's just an internal division. Wendy's branch manager. Come on. But once again, I don't think he's like the evil, Dr. Evil here of this. I think that he views himself as put in a bad position, because think about this, guys. If you work for a failed corporation, that's on your resume forever. Imagine if you worked at Exxon or some sort of other corporation that went down, Lehman Brothers, etc., right? That's on your record forever. And now he's going to be on the record as in a failing VTubing corporation that went down due to some dark stuff, the charity stuff, the charity embezzlement, and the unpaid wages to a lot of people. That's not looking good for him. I don't think he's particularly evil, but Kaysan did put him to the fire and did hold his feet to the fire on this. And I think she did an admirable job of it. And also, mind you, she can only speak about herself. She can't speak about other people, and she doesn't want to dig in other people's business, which is appropriate. So she was being very careful to make sure the questions were related to herself. But she was clever in that she asked questions that can pertain to the U.S. branch as well, which is very clear. So what we learned from this that was very relevant, and I'm going to summarize it, we're not going to play the whole thing. But what we learned from this is that the JP branch was allegedly making money, but the US branch wasn't. And as a whole, the company was hemorrhaging money. They were losing money. And another thing that came up, and this is very important, is that they were paying the staff and not the talent. And out of this, we got the best quote that I think this is going to be a quote going down in VTuber history. Talent first, my ass. I love Kaysan. I got a kind of crush on Kaysan. But this is possibly the best quote, because it not just talks about a feeling, it talks about the reality, the legal reality. Because the legal reality is that they were paying staff and not the actual talent. And there's a reason for that. That's because the staff needed to be paid, or labor law, which is very clear because they're actual employees, would have been triggered and they would have been immediately punished, whether it's in Japan or America, anywhere in the world. The staff are clear employees. They need to be paid first. However, independent contractors can be screwed. And even in the case where they declare for bankruptcy, which they're probably going towards, we're going to talk about that, independent contractors can be completely shafted of all of their money. And what is amazing about this is that she was not paid since September of 2022. How many of you guys, let me tell you right now, I would be destitute if I was not paid and living at the same quality of life as whatever, and I didn't reduce my quality of life. Like if I was not paid for an entire year, that would not be good. That would not be good for me, right? To not get paid for an entire year. I don't know how many of you can survive that way. God bless Kaysan, and that she was able to, sorry, not 2022. I'm sorry, 2024. Misspoke. Let's play.
No. Wait.
2024. I misspoke. I'm not perfect, guys. Listen, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. 2024. She wasn't paid since 2024. So September of 2024, she wasn't paid. Enough money to buy her a Ferrari, right? So clearly, Kaysan has some level, somebody put in the chat, of FU money, but that's all well and good. Not every talent has that level of money or has that level of resources. And to put that on them is insane. Now, we don't know for how long Ironmouse has not been paid. Maybe she hasn't been paid since September either. Who knows? We don't know that right now. We have no idea how long Ironmouse has not been paid. She hasn't said that specifically. She hasn't given a specific date, right? So, yeah. 2024, that's insane. That's insane. Full year. Fumble mindset. It happens, guys. I'm not perfect. This is alive. This is the reason why it's alive. You guys like this, the scuff sometimes. It happens. Almost 10,000 people in the chat, by the way, so make sure to hit the like. All right. let's talk about VShojo. Let's get into the facts. So there's a lot of important facts here. First of all, VShojo is a private corporation. So we do not have their public filings. That's very important because we would have certain disclosures and financial reports that we'd be able to audit live if they were a public corporation. And I do have a little bit of sadness that they're not as public like Niji Sanji or like Cover Corporation, whereas we could look at their financials and see how they reported things and see where that $500,000 went, where that was on the balance sheet. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have to account for it. They've clearly filed taxes. They've clearly filed other reports. They've clearly filed something, but we don't have access to it. Now, as part of an investigation, we will eventually figure this out. And particularly if there's a lawsuit and this stuff becomes public, as it would within a lawsuit, particularly in California, that would be information we would eventually get and be very, very interesting to see where that money actually went. But we don't have that right now. Another important fact here, and this is very important, is they were founded in 2020. And one thing you guys need to understand about 2020 is that was an era in which two things were very true. Number one, companies could borrow money at extremely low interest rates. So they were borrowing money. And I know this because, number one, I was representing corporations, both when I was in private with a law firm and both when I was in-house. They were borrowing money at insanely low interest rates. They were so low that it made sense to borrow because inflation was more than the borrowing. So they would just say, oh yeah, no, it's not going to matter. We're going to spend it now. We'll make it back later. And at this time, number two, the speculation was because of COVID that VTubing was going to go wild. The economic and financial projections for VTubing were completely unrealistic. Completely unrealistic. They were based on people being inside 24/7 for, the future going on forever. That didn't happen. That's not how things panned out. Eventually, the world went back to normal, and there was a drop-off in general in the VTubing industry. And that wasn't factored in. So I think a lot of people got in this, a lot of companies, particularly and investors, got in this for the money. Okay? I know people like to think, oh, it's about the talent. We love them. No, investors don't give money, and corporations don't invest in things that aren't going to make them money. I'm sorry. Even the best of corporations is trying to make money. They thought they were going to make money during a specific period of time, and they were wrong about their projections. And they're not large enough to be deeply capitalized. They're not publicly funded, right? They're not publicly traded, so they don't have the same access to capital to recover. Beyond that, we're going to talk about this. I think these three people, Justin, the gun run, Ignacio, the CEO, Philip Fortunat, the CTO, maybe not, technical side, maybe not as much, but certainly Daniel Sanders, the COO. He's actually a lawyer. These guys, I think Justin and Daniel, are definitely in the hot seat for culpability here, because obviously Justin's the CEO, obviously he's in charge of everything there, and the COO is in charge of operations. So certainly these two people knew about that. If I was going to depose anybody, Mr. Ignacio and Mr. Sanders would be the first people I'd be deposing in this, these two people right here. And the last thing with the arrows, and the thing that's big, the thing you need to understand is there is headquarters in San Francisco, California. So that is massive. This means that all claims would seemingly be valid in California. That means the analysis I'm going to do today is based on applying American law and California law. Now, I'm not a California lawyer. I did a lot of research for this. I talked to my friends that are California lawyers, et cetera, on this. But California law in general, and having dealt with it directly, is one of the strictest in the world for employee protections, consumer protections, et cetera, regulatory protections. I can have my complaints with that, and I certainly do in certain contexts with some of the regulation in California. However, this is one situation where California law actually is a W for the talent and for the VShojo, the former VShojo talent, because they're going to go into one of the most anti-corporate jurisdictions in all of America. That's why VShojo is absolutely screwed here, right? This is a complete factor that is against them 100%. And I have seen situations with independent contractors where they have a contract that says they're an independent contractor. And in California, the regulators, the people in the government that look at this stuff, they look at those contracts, say, yeah, no, we're going to throw that out. They're an employee. I've seen that happen. So if that can happen, it can happen for these girls. No guarantee, but it's possible. And that is huge. That's massive. massive factor. By the way, I think earlier somebody, well, let's see, what was it people mentioning? There's no CFO. So I looked for the org chart and I cannot find their CFO. So my assumption is the COO, which is the Chief of Operations Officer. He has that role. Maybe there is a CFO under him, but I'm going to assume that he's the one that's dealing with the financial side. That's an assumption by now. I might be wrong, but I have not found an org chart that has a CFO. Somebody said the CFO quit, whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. So for now, I'm going with that guy, for that dude. That's my assumption. Okay, let's talk about the VShojo contract. I have read a VShojo contract. Now, it is none of the current talents. It's a previous talent. In fact, it's a talent that has been gone for a while, right? So I'm not going to, and I don't want to say a name or whatever else. I've read a VShojo contract. I have it. I'm not going to show it because it's irrelevant. Also, it might inadvertently dox the person who it is, and I'm not into giving away information or in any way harming the talent. I never take any action that's not approved by the talent that would send me a contract or whatever else. I've seen all the corporations' contracts. I've seen Hololive. I've seen Nijisanji. Obviously, I showed you guys Nijisanji, Vactor, VNU, all those contracts. Their contract, I will say, it's more permissive than like an Nijisanji or Hololive. However, it has certain provisions that are problematic for them. And the things that are problematic are the NDA and confidentiality provisions, which they do have in there. And then they have an attempt to frame them as independent contractors. Now, I will say this. Of all the corporations, VShojo has the strongest argument that they're independent contractors. However, I don't think that completely kills the argument that they're employees. I think there's a very good argument that they're more like part-time employees or kind of maybe even, I wouldn't say temporary, but I would say part-time employees. That's the best way to describe them. There's an argument that could be made for that based on the still residual level of control and the payment structure between them. I think there's a good argument. And I think the thing is, by going in and attacking and saying, we're going to frame ourselves, the talent, Ironmouse, and all the rest of them that are quitting, that are unpaid, like Kason. We're going to call ourselves workers. We're going to file with the labor board, with the labor commissioner, and make VShojo defend. Make VShojo come back and rebut you. Put them on the defensive. You always want to, in this scenario, be on the attack and make them defend, not the other way around. So in that case, put them in the hot seat, put them in the pinch, put them in the position where they've got to come up with the money. I think that's a reasonable argument. And this is one of the reasons why I've been arguing since Nijisanji on why, if it's possible, you need to be framed as an employee if you're being under this level of control, and also if you're worried about payment. Because without being an employee, they can argue that labor law doesn't apply to you, and they can shaft you out of your payments. And the only way you can remedy that is by suing them. But as a creator, do you want to sue your employer? No, right? No. So it puts them in a weird position. It takes the power away from them. So I've been very much against this framing for a while. Now, I know that a lot of corpos disagree with this. I know a lot of corpos will fight me back on this. I had a conversation with the former CEO, one former CEO about this. And look, I understand why they do it. But at the end of the day, it's not the best for talents. It really isn't. So let me continue here. Labor law. Let's talk about labor law. So contracts cannot prevent unpaid wage claims, or reporting of criminal activity. So anytime there is a wrongdoing at a workplace or a place of employment, you can report that. There's nothing stopping that in that contract that's going to stop them from saying they committed charity fraud or that they haven't paid me. That's perfectly permissible, and no NDA is going to stop that. No confidentiality is going to stop that. Furthermore, California law has specific provisions that say, hey, you can't do that. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But the process that's going on right now. So remember, she talked about the legal process. Remember that word, the magic words I talked about? Here's what's happening right now, most likely if she's doing a labor claim. If she's doing a labor claim, they're probably right now gathering documentation of witnesses. Maybe they've already done that. And then they report it to the labor commissioner, in this case, the California labor commissioner. Then it would go to mediation. And then after mediation fails, usually there's a settlement here, But after that fails, there'd be a civil lawsuit, which there's a 3-year statute of limitations. There's plenty of time. And all that counts is you start the process. So clearly she's already starting the process. She's already getting on this. So I'm not even worried about the statute of limitations or the limits being run out. What she may be waiting on is mediation. She may try to mediate with them and try to get some money back and maybe get the charity money. Right? I think maybe if she can get the charity money back and she realizes, hey, I'm not going to get all of my money back, she might be okay. Because Ironmouse seems pretty selfless in that sense. If she's willing to sacrifice her wages for that long, same with Kason, right? If they're willing to sacrifice their wages for a long period of time, they're probably willing to settle for less than they're owed. They're probably owed a lot of money. They're probably owed, I would guess, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars based on their income levels. So that said, I think they're waiting on the process. And I think if this process proceeds, I think you may hear more from them. You may hear more from them. But however, you can't silence the mouse or the other people. Laws prevent retaliation against employees reporting unlawful acts, stealing money from charity, not paying out the payments you're owed. That's an unlawful act. California also prevents NDAs from silencing employees. God bless Cali law. In 2022, there was an updated law, the Silence No More Act, that applies to workplace NDAs and when they don't apply, etc. I do think that for many reasons, the NDAs could be wiped out, but I think that specific California law is an argument that a clever lawyer could try to make to knock out that NDA. So I think that's possible as well. There's also something called whistleblower protections. So that's very broad. Many states have whistleblower protections, not just California. So whistleblower is someone who will report something that should not be happening that's happening. That exists in California, as well as the last thing, and this is so important, I'm going to say it time and time again, you cannot stop the reporting of crime. There is no contract in the world that says, hey, if we do a crime, you can't tell anybody. No, that's not real. That's not a thing, especially not in America, right? Maybe in North Korea, but not in America. You can't stop people from reporting a crime. If someone commits murder, you can't say, well, we have an NDA, so you can't tell about that murder. No, you're committing a crime related to the charity funds. That needs to be reported to the proper authorities and investigated properly. Okay, so we're going to talk about the crimes now. Who are they likely to put pinch on? This guy, the Gun Run Ignacio, Justin the Gun Run Ignacio, is definitely on the top of the list for people getting deposed, people that are going to be put in the hot seat, because certainly he had the power, he had the control, he had the ability to guide the general direction of the company, and he chose to take it in this direction. He chose to take it in this direction. So a lot of this criminal stuff is going to come on him. So let's talk about the charity funding issues. There's 3 main things regarding the misallocation of charity funds. First, there's civil claims. A civil claim is non-criminal. That's something that can be brought by either the donors or by Mouse. Also, federal crimes and state crimes. Let's talk about all these. So first, civil crimes. This is a question I got immediately. Can the donors sue? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Donors can sue. There's many different theories they can sue under. They could sue under misrepresentation. That is, they were represented that this money was going to go towards charity, and it indeed went into their pockets, their coffers. That's misrepresentation. There's breach of contract. So there's an implied contract, which also has fiduciary duties, between yourself as the donor and the recipient to disperse those funds appropriately. There's also fraudulent transfer. Because of the amount here and the amount that was allocated, that is a massive fraudulent transfer that was put somewhere else other than the charity, probably into VShojo's operating funds, based on everything the JP CEO said, CEO of the JP branch, aka the JP branch manager. What he said was, hey, we were making money, they weren't. Put 1 plus 1 together equals 2. Equals they put that into the operating coffers to pay the staff, pay the whatever, keep the lights on, pay for the building, pay for somebody's yacht, whatever. I'm making a Riku reference from Niji Sanji there, but that money went somewhere else. That's a fraudulent transfer. And then Ironmouse can also bring a claim, obviously, because she was misrepresented, right? She was harmed by that. She thought that it was going to go somewhere and it didn't. So there's claims that are going to be brought all around. And I'm sure, by the way, that Ironmouse was also a donor to the fund. So all of that could come against him civilly. Now let's talk about jail time, kids. Let's talk about federal crimes. I love federal crimes. This is federal level. So at the federal level, charity fraud is typically investigated by the FTC. Now, they will partner with the state attorney general. So obviously the California attorney general, which is the state in which they're headquartered, will be working together with the FTC on this. And it's $500,000. This is at the level that it gets federal attention. And particularly with the PR that's going to go in here. I know a lot of you guys, there's 10,000 people in the chat right now. People are going to contact the California Labor Board. People are going to contact the FTC. People are going to be making phone calls about this. This is something that I think fans, people around on the internet are incensed about, justifiably. And I think because of that, these people are going to know, and they're going to get on this. They're going to be like, what's going on here? Let's make some calls. And it's going to be a real uncomfortable moment in that VShojo office when they get a call from the federal government asking where's $500,000. That is a hell of an uncomfortable conversation with the federal government. And depending on the nature of the fraud, once again, we don't know exactly where the money went. So this is speculation, but I'm just going to give you a list of things. The first one is one they can get anybody on. They got Al Capone on this one. Wire fraud. Now, wire fraud is not just over the telephone, it's over the internet. So the interpretation of that legally is over the internet. They would have a slam dunk case on wire fraud if they misappropriated these funds. That's pretty clear. Money laundering, false statements for lying, misrepresentation, and also violations of the FTC Act, the Federal Trade Commission Act. Any of these things is possible. Once again, depending on the facts, some things may be more likely than others, right? But certainly, I'm looking at wire fraud here is good. And yes, this is when you get the FBI open up. Real uncomfortable time for Ignacio. State law. Let's talk about that. You have California Penal Code 503-515, which is embezzlement. Embezzlement. State crime, very clear. I mean, I don't know. It's the money was supposed to go one place and it didn't go there. Embezzlement, right? Breach of fiduciary duty. A fiduciary is somebody that holds your money. So if I'm your lawyer and you give me money to buy a property, I used to do real estate transfers, and my firm would do this. We would take the money from a corporation that was looking to buy land. We would hold that money. And then once the seller of the land met all of our terms, we would disperse the money to the seller, and then we get a deed for the land. And I did that hundreds of times. However, if my firm decided to blow that on, cocaine and strippers, right, that would be a breach of our fiduciary duty, because we weren't supposed to blow that money. We were supposed to give that money over for the transaction, right? So if they were supposed to give this over on behalf of Ironmouse, once again, she used that language. They were going to do this on my behalf. That is language that implies a fiduciary duty, and they failed in that duty. Boom, breach of fiduciary duty. That's California law. That's state law, right? Allegedly. Misleading and deceptive fundraising practices, reporting. And so this is because they didn't give it and they were deceptive and misleading. But beyond that, reporting and regulatory violations. So that's a good one. So charity donations have to be reported. How did they report this? How did they say this was supposed to go? Look into the books, look into the reporting. And the big one, the one at the end, the one that even the Joker is afraid of, is the tax man. The tax man. We're talking about the state and the federal, because tax can be at both levels, state and federal. So both the tax man from the IRS and the state of California is going to be like, where did this money go? How did you allocate this? Did you properly pay for this? Like, what's going on with that? You do not mess with the tax man. You do not F with the tax man. And if they in any way misreported this, then they are in some hot water. Absolutely 100%. I mean, that's one there you can't get around that. It's not possible. Okay, let's talk about the girls. And we're getting to the back end, so I'm going to be able to start answering these 102 super chats. I'm going to get through all of them, I promise. I'm not going to leave until I get through every single one of them. Okay, let's talk about the girls. So, the girls here. First of all, I just want to say once again, please support them. Please do not pressure them to say more than they can say. Excuse me. The girls are not at fault, and they're only going to be able to say what they can say. And I know you're going to have a lot of questions for them, but they need to listen to their lawyers and what their lawyers say they can say and not say. And other channels can speculate more than they can. On my channel right now, I've speculated a lot. And a lot of what I've said is speculation, and it's based on allegations. Now it's reasonable speculation. It's educated speculation. However, they cannot do that. They are not at liberty to do that. So while you in the chat are putting together 1 + 1, they can't do that yet. So just understand that. However, what I do think they can do, and this is a little, I hope they talk to their attorneys about this. All of them can try to file in California, whether or not they're a California resident. Ironmouse is not a California resident, but she's a Puerto Rican resident, which, can file in American courts, has standing. But even beyond that, California labor law doesn't look into your residency status, et cetera. You can still file a claim even as a non-resident of California, even as somebody who's just worked for a California company. So I would look into that, because once they file, the non-retaliation provisions apply, as well as all the law that keeps them from silencing them or using NDAs to shut them up. So if they file, it puts I almost said Niji Sanji. It puts VShojo on the defensive, and VShojo will be in real hot water because they'll be able to speak a lot more. So I think that's a good thing. And I think, by the way, all of them will be fine on their own. They'll be fine as indies. Some people have said, why don't they start their own corporation? I don't think they need to have their own corporation. I don't think any of them need a corporation. They probably need a team, and they could share team members, right? They could have team members that support multiple girls, but I don't think they need a corpo necessarily. I don't think there's anything. A lot of people are obsessed with corpos. You don't need a corpo. You can have a team of people that help you. I have a team of people that help me. Shout out to my mods, Danielle, JP, my Clipper, Eagle. I got other people helping me behind the scenes too. That's a team, but we don't work for a corporation. It's just one body, right? So yeah, just putting that out there. And I think that the girls, if they're paid unpaid wages, I think they can make the argument that they're employees. All of them can make that argument. So Kason, with her Ferrari money, can go out there and say, hey, look, I'm owed these, I should be paid like an employee. I need to be paid out. Now, here's the thing. I think VShojo's headed for bankruptcy. I think VShojo's goal the entire time has been bankruptcy. VShojo has known they're bleeding money for a while. They haven't paid since 2024. They've known that. Their corporate strategy was to take their own profits as staff, as a CEO, with their shareholders, to take every cent they can extract from this business and liquidate it. And they view the talent, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just telling you how corporations view people. They are the machine. They're the cog. They're just a cog to be traded off, to be discarded, to be sold off. They're not a thing that they feel a duty to in the same way that they do to themselves. And what I think they planned on the entire time is, because they're framed as independent contractors. In bankruptcy, there's two types of debt. There's secured debt and there's unsecured debt. Secured debt is something like a house that has a mortgage on it. A mortgage is secured by the house. If you don't pay your mortgage, they take your house. A car loan is secured by your car. If you don't pay your car loan, they're going to get your car eventually. What unsecured debt is, there's nothing tied to that. There's nothing they can take if you don't pay it. So in this case, when they didn't pay them, they couldn't, if they didn't pay Kason doesn't get to come in and take the furniture. Kason doesn't get to come in and repossess the office, right? It's unsecured. However, they're not employees. Employees are given a priority over all other unsecured debts. So that's why they paid the employees first. They paid the Japanese employees, and like the Japanese CEO branch manager said, he was paid. He was paid. He just admitted it. And to be honest, guys, I want to say something real quick. I do appreciate his honesty and his candor, that he was honest and said, I was paid. And because he could have lied. He could have lied and said he wasn't paid. But he told the truth. And the truth was very instructive to the strategy. And now there is a potential hole in the strategy, because if they go for bankruptcy, now while payments to independent contractors are unsecured, there is a special exception for unpaid commissions owed to independent contractors. So debt qualifies for priority status, meaning it gets paid before most other unsecured debts if during the 12 months before the bankruptcy, it was 75% of the contractor's earning from the debtor. So in other words, to put that back into English, because I know that's not very, English friendly there, the exception means if the majority of your money was coming from that company, they need to pay you first. You get a priority. That's a little ray of hope. And I'm not saying that would make sure they're paid, because if they truly don't have any money, then they're probably going to get out of the wages part, at least to a certain extent. And that sucks. It's horrible, but that's the reality of the situation. If they really truly have no money, right? Now, if they were misallocating money or misappropriating money, then maybe the wages or the payments that were to the CEO, CFO, et cetera, are going to be garnished, or there's going to be some individual responsibility. That's all possible theoretically. We don't know the details, but they are definitely banking on getting away with not paying people. And the reason why this is not just Ironmouse, it's Kson, it's probably a lot of the other talent too. Chat, I'm going to ask you guys chat this right now. Have any other talent other than Kson and Ironmouse? I think maybe one or two have mentioned they haven't been paid. But I'm sure that others are going to come out and say they haven't been paid, other than Kson and Ironmouse. I'm positive that others have not been paid. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Kuro and Mel. Okay. Yes. People are saying yes. Yeah. I think it's others too. It's others too. Oh, Melody left too. Okay. That's a big one. Giga. Okay. She said you want to pay it. Okay. Good. Okay. Well, the point of the matter is that anybody that was there, the independent contractors, probably weren't paid. And that was probably a strategy. That was intentional. They said, we're losing money. We're going to die in a year. We need to get every red cent we can out of our investment. We need to pay back our investors, right? So that is what likely happened there. Okay. We have 117 questions right now. I'm going to answer each and every damn one of them. I'm going to read every single one of them. But I will start at the top, and I will go in like priority of, when I see like higher amounts to lower amounts, and I will get through every single one of them. Rentevia says, well, VShojo just shat the bed with them. Maybe they get stomped in court if it comes to that for their absolute vile behavior and treatment of Ironmouse and other VTubers. They would get destroyed in court. I think their chances in court are horrible for this. Absolutely horrible for this. Mash out us to get your pitchforks and torches. Buy one, get one free. We have a sale on bricks and stones. Man, the situation is bad. This is worse. People ask, is this worse than Niji Sanji? Yes. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here. Mr. Perixum says, get the fat electrician to research VShojo. That'd be fun. I think there's a lot of research that's going to come out and a lot of data that's going to come out on VShojo, because people are going to spill and people are going to talk, and information, I guarantee, will be leaked out. This is a situation in which I don't think anybody has a real pull to keep it super secret. And I think that VShojo cannot sue them all for, breach of NDA, right? They don't have the funds for that. Patrick said, when I heard her video yesterday, it was hard to listen as she kept explaining what they did. To steal from the charity that saved her life and gaslight her is a new level of disgusting. I agree. And that's one reason why I hopped on this so aggressively. I typically take a little bit, maybe a day or two to process it, but the level of nastiness of this brings this, in my words, as worse than Niji Sanji in terms of the scope. Kson just streamed a few minutes ago and he put, yes, I talked about that. I watched the whole thing, watched everything. Puerto Rican says VShojo is the Elizabeth Holmes of VTubing. Oof. FaZe wins by doing nothing. Well, once again, I think the fish man said something very wise, and we can listen and learn from that. He said it's very difficult to learn to make a profitable VTubing corporation. He said that. And I think the fish man knew. I think the fish man knew about the finances of VShojo. And I think he knew they weren't doing well. And he's smart to keep his organization tight and small and expand at a thoughtful pace. I think that's the way to go for building a corporation that's sustainable, because you want to make the numbers sustainable. Premier 2 used the word repurposed. It's not repurposed. They misallocated. It wasn't given where it was. We have a fact here. The charity did not get the money. That's a problem. However you want to frame that, that's a problem. Cold Acid said VShojo imploding before Niji was not on my bingo card. Neither was I. I did not see this coming. I got to be honest. And maybe, by the way, because I have been, not paying attention to the quote unquote drama side, I focus on more the legal side of things. And I know there's been speculation about their fiscal solvency for a while and that they were losing money or not making money. I didn't see a firm confirmation of that until I heard the words on Kson stream, and I heard what the JP branch manager was saying, and that confirmed it for me, that they're in a bad financial spot. Sponge117 said the company is basically already folded. A lot of staff reported that they've been let go on their PL accounts. There we go. Kuro, among others, submitting leave and they're departing. They're a rotten tree. And every talent wouldn't leave if they thought they were going to be all right. And it's not just because it's friends with Ironmouse. It's because they see something endemically wrong, like with the character of VShojo. Quirk said, you single-handedly made my boring mechanic job more enjoyable for the next hour or two. Well, thank you. And you know, listen, man, every job is important. So don't, you know, no matter what you do out there, like what you contribute to society and humanity is important. Don't forget that. The Big L1861 says, any idea of what time frame the other talents are potentially looking at if they want to leave, if the allegation is true? They should leave right away. Kason moved her date up. She said she was going to leave anyways at the end of the month, but she moved her date up. So I think they should just leave now. There's no reason, especially under American law, F VShojo, leave right now. Ricardo Fun said, if things were not bad enough, Kason also announced her immediate resignation, leaving like 2 hours ago. Saw that. I wonder how empty the agency's pockets are. Not enough to hire a good lawyer. That's what I'm talking about. VShojo stands out there. People are going to try to defend VShojo. How do you make money? Tell me how a corporation survives when their top products are gone. It's like Coca-Cola Corporation can't sell regular Coke anymore. It's right. They're not going to get on like, I mean, I know people like Diet Coke, but like there's going to be some problems if they can't sell their premium products. And by the way, it'd be like losing Coke and Diet Coke because you're losing a lot of different products. You're losing a lot of different talents, right? Not just one, you're losing a lot. It would be a big problem. Mark says also something to note. Nizuna has also talked about VShojo both while they're in 23 and now. She had a lot of issues with staff and no support. I'm not surprised. They probably just didn't have money. Thanks for the super sticker. Echo One says, how scummy of VShojo. Hope they get what's coming to them. I think they will in insolvency. Jimmy says, as a fan of VTubing in general and a Mousy in particular, this just all sucks. I know. And the one silver lining here is because it's VShojo, they do, and I've read the contract, and Kason said this, they maintain their IP, they maintain their social media. They're not going to go away as a talent. So you're not going to lose Ironmouse. You're not going to lose Kason. You're not going to lose anybody else that you love. And that's, the best thing, if that's one of your Oshis, Kason or Ironmouse or Henya or Michi Machivi, whatever it is, whoever it is, you're not losing them. And that's a bright side. If this was another corporation, you might lose them, at least in that capacity. And we all know what we're talking about. I know PLs are a taboo still amongst some people, but we all know what we're talking about. Like, that's a bright side of this. And the contracts are very clear about this. And there's no way that in the interpretation of the contract, and I've read the contract once again, that they can try to take their IP. I like the Spikeman says, belongs to the Mount Rushmore of VTubing, no doubt. She's not my Oshi, but she's a pioneer, and her story is why VTubing is huge. I absolutely agree. It's inspiring. Biffernet says, how can she not keep her anonymity when it goes to court? She cannot. So that's a very good point. This is a very good super chat. This is the reason why I love the super chats. This is a problem. If this goes to court, she will lose her anonymity and she will need to use her name. There's no exception in the law for VTubers. I'm sorry. I know that makes people mad, but once again, on my channel, I'll tell you guys the facts, and it's just a fact. There's no VTuber exception in the law that says if you're a VTuber, you get to not say your name in court. It would mean a loss of her privacy. And that's very dangerous. But the fact is, it's the company that put her in that position. Okay? It's the company that put her in a position. Now, one thing I can put out here. If it's the criminal case, they don't necessarily need her. So they don't need her name in the criminal case. They could just use her as Ironmouse. But if it's her own civil lawsuit and she is suing civilly herself, yes, she would need to use her name in her own lawsuit. So yeah, I'm sorry, guys. That's the one thing I've just got to be honest with you. Once again, I'm completely transparent here. Even when things don't go the way I want, that's the way it is. Obviously, that sucks. I think maybe there should be some way to be a little bit, get some anonymity for certain people in certain circumstances. I understand that. Different systems and countries handle this differently, but that's the way it is in America. That's the way it is in America. Let's see here. Jay Bayham says, since VShojo doesn't own any of the IP and some of the streams are part owners, they get hit with damages. Is it possible the streamers' part ownership will get hit? No, that's not going to be an issue. Well, except for the fact that, let me put it this way. Except for the fact that they wouldn't be getting paid out of what they might get from like a profit share, right? Obviously, there's probably liability limitations. And certainly the talent is not going to be culpable for something which they are reporting. So a talent is not going to have to pay out their own wages that are unpaid, if you get what I'm trying to say. So good question there. That was some big PP energy. Guys, I did that all today. I woke up this morning and I started working on that PP. So PP's in the chat, okay? Because I work hard to give you guys the best information out there and to do it as fast as possible. I added 5 slides after the Kson thing. That's how much I love you guys. And I filmed the Fast Facts video, which will come out later. You guys just got to stay tuned and you'll get that one. HR Hacken says, how does holding money like this work in the US? Does it go into separate bank accounts and bookkeeping accounts? If you're a company doing the right thing, if you're doing the right thing, here's what you should do. Give it directly to the charity. Don't even put yourself in that position. Make a direct link to the charity and don't hold the money. You shouldn't have to hold the money. That's the number one thing you should do. And that's why, by the way, YouTube doesn't allow creators to touch fundraising funds. You add the company on YouTube if you do it on the official way, right? By the official YouTube giving, right? You select the charity and you never touch the money. When I did a veterans fundraiser, right? I never touched the money. The Veterans Association was the one that received all of it, right? I didn't never see that money, never hit my bank account. I never was tempted to skim off the top, right? And the problem with a corporation, imagine the position of a corporation. When a corporation is in the red and they see this money and they say, oh, but next month we got this big event and we'll make this money back and we'll pay it then. It's too much temptation. It's way too much temptation. Just don't have the money. Now, if you're going to hold it, separate bank account, separate account, and just that would be better. But once again, paying the money is the requirement. It doesn't matter if they put it in their slush fund, if they paid it out, but they didn't pay it out. That's the problem. Stealing donations meant for a foundation that helps patients. That's a special place in hell for people like that. Anthony said, but VShojo is just an unfortunate corpo. They need their 500K right away. Real talk. In the real likelihood, this is real. They need to be prosecuted. Yes. And I am assuming that it's real. I have no reason to believe that she would lie. Can they settle out of court now? Yes, they can settle any minute. They could turn around right now and do the right thing and give the money over. The CEO could sell his yacht or his Ferrari and go pay the money right now. And that's the right thing to do. And I think if they want to get out of the criminal side, they want to get out of the PR side, pay that money right now. They still could have issues. They still could get hit with problems, even if they pay it right now, because they failed to pay it for so long. They still could be investigated. However, the right thing to do, VShojo, is to pay right now. Find some way to pay that damn charity. And then you can, they want to fight over the wages, whatever, right? They're going to lose on that or whatever. There's going to be pushback on that. But pay the charity. Pay the charity. For the love of God. I mean, I'm kind of worked up on that one. Like that part of it is just obvious to me. Sell a mansion, whatever. Patrick Elza says, the VShojo JP CEO told Kson he doesn't expect VShojo to survive this. It's wild to me. Niji Sanji. Yeah, no, they're not going to survive this. There's no way you're going to tell me they're going to come out of this. They're going to lose their top earners and they're going to survive this. How is that possible? And if you're a bank or any sort of lending institution, when you go and you ask for a loan, so let's say VShojo goes and asks for a loan, they're going to ask, oh, what's your revenue? And you show them your liabilities and your revenue against your revenue, losing all of these revenue streams. There's no way they're going to get a loan for that. Drifting says, so they shot themselves in the foot. How far can a company cover themselves? I don't know. Now, what could happen, there is a possibility that someone could try to buy them out, but I don't know how much they're worth because once again, they don't own the IP. And the only reason why you would buy out a company like VShojo is because of the IP. But because they don't own the IP, there's nothing really of value to buy in VShojo. It's just the VShojo logo. And now the name is tarnished. Why would you buy out VShojo? There's no reason for them to buy out VShojo. VShojo doesn't have any unique technology. They're not unique in any way in terms of implementation, right? There's no reason to buy out the brand. Mr. Bernoxum says, we should get the guys of the Unsub podcast in this and watch VShojo more. I guarantee you the whole internet is going to get on this the next couple of days. Patrick says, when VShojo files for bankruptcy, does VShojo JP have to cover playing, oh, well, it's gone. Hopefully they get prison time for everyone. JP is not a real thing. Forget about the JP thing. He's not the JP CEO. That's a title, right? That they gave him inside. They can call you the emperor of the universe. They can call you the emperor of mankind, right? There's one real CEO. That's the American CEO. There's no legal separate entity for the JP branch. They just call them that because they call them that. It's sort of like VTubers call managers essentially their assistants. You know, a lot of times a VTuber has an assistant and they call him a manager. Whatever, it's an industry term. Whatever, it doesn't actually reflect what they're doing or their position or their relative power to the VTuber. So I think that's just a internal distinction. Jay Mayhem says Mouse also has contracts in Congress. It definitely doesn't help. No, and that means federal eyeballs. Jimmy the Hand 1553 says there seems to be an internal revolution of VShojo. Mel is out, Kason is pissed, and even the honors. No, Kason is out. Kason's not pissed. She's out. She's out. JJ said, I know Mal said they were going to donate one half the stream earnings for their subathon, but did VShojo actually say they were going to donate that money to the IDF? Does it matter? If it was an implicit understanding, which is what Ironmouse has said, there was an understanding that they were going to donate that is a big deal. Yes. No question. Just want to support the stream. Thank you. Steve McKinney says, does Mousy see as an eggshell plaintiff any chance of NIED? No. I don't think it's going to be NIED. That's negligent infliction of emotional stress. That's a very good comment, and I appreciate your legal creativity. And if this was a law school exam, I would tell you good answer, but I don't think that's the strongest claim. If you're just going to try to throw spaghetti at the wall, then maybe, but I don't think that's the main one. Lead anime fan. I love it. A fellow weeb over here. Legal worthy opinions are usually more than a super donation. Thank you. Clearly this is about Mouse right now. What do you suggest for fixing anonymity? VTubers want anonymity. What protections can they hope to benefit from going forward? I think if there was a provision whereby they could go by a pseudonym or a business name, and that would be sufficient, right? And you have a reasonable basis for maintaining your anonymity. I think that's fine. I think that would apply to content creators. I mean, I would appreciate some anonymity as a content creator. In my personal life, there's a lot of people that try to dig and dox and hate and say crazy stuff about you. And certainly Ironmouse has her share of haters and insane people that are after her as a public figure. And she also has, probably super fans or stalkers or, some sort of, parasocial toxicity that would be at risk if she gave out her name and location, and her family at risk, etc. So I think there do need to be protections for that. I would say it's difficult to do, and it would end up giving a lot more people anonymity, but I don't see a problem with that if they're operating as like a business. So like, Ironmouse Inc. is suing and that's the name on there. I'm kind of okay with that. Zero U, but that's a very good question, and I do think it needs to be fixed. Zero U says, are all VTuber agency like this? I'm just fine supporting Hololive. No and yes. So are all corporations evil? No. However, are they all driven by profit? Yes. Yes, they are. And at the end of the day, even your favorite corporations like Hololive, like Niji, whatever your phase, even the fish band wants to make some money right at the end of the day. Now, they all may have a different trade-off in terms of what they're willing to do and how they're willing to support talent and how much they're willing to take versus give, right? They all have that different balance they're striking. However, I would say this, watch their actions. I judge people and corporations by their actions. Are they supporting the talent in a way that you support? Are they giving the talent what you want to support? And ask yourself that question. As I say, my slogan is be your own judge. Be your own judge of the corporation. Be your own judge based on what you see and how that corporation moves. K19VT said, can a company buy out the remaining contracts and the VTubers that can't leave? I don't think so. They could try to buy out the corporation and then assume the profit, but they'd also assume the liabilities. That's the problem. And no one's going to want the liabilities because the liabilities of VShojo far outweigh the revenue of the remaining talent. Jake says for 10 pounds, would Ironmouse have to attend court personally? If so, would her medical needs be considered, meaning she wouldn't have to attend court? Sorry, legal noob here. No, she could probably get away with not going to court personally. But however, she would have to be at some point perhaps deposed. So they might have to set up a room for her to be questioned, and they could probably set it up so it's sanitary and safe, etc. But she would at some point would have to leave her room, right? That would have to happen if she goes to court. However, she wouldn't necessarily have to show up in court herself. There might be ability to be deposed or whatever. And there are special exemptions for people that might have a disability, for example. And that certainly is a cognizable disability, right? So if they could accommodate her for a deposition, and maybe they could do the deposition by Zoom, maybe they would do it by another way to do it. And maybe they'd be willing to accommodate for that. That might be perfectly permissible. But would she necessarily have to go to court? No. And certainly, look, guys, this is my whole thing on this. I don't think this is getting to the point where it goes to court. I think VShojo goes under or they settle before court. This is something that you don't want this thing to, if they survive long enough for it to go to court, remember, it can take a year, 2 years for us to go to court. Understand, court processes take a long time, a very long time. A lawsuit can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to drag out. So I don't think VShojo's got that time. That's my prediction. Mama Akka said it makes you wonder if other companies have the same issues and other companies aren't paying their contractors. Oh, no, Mama, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's not just VShojo. Don't think it's just VShojo. It's other companies as well. In fact, we know some companies that have done that. I've covered them and that have also shafted the talent. And that is something that goes on and on again in the VTubing industry because of the fact they're independent contractors. And that's at the heart of a lot of this. Topkek666 says, hey, I'm new to the channel. Well, welcome. I found it after watching Ethan versus Hassan from Asman. I love your videos, love your channel, love everything you do here. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, stay healthy. Big love from Slovakia. Oh, I love Slovakia. Thank you for the 50 euros. I'll have to get down there. Again, I have some really good Slovakian friends that I go hiking with. Erdania says, how do the upcoming lawsuits in bankruptcy affect the employees, board, and shareholders? Well, the employees need to be paid. And that's something that they would need to do. So if they're full-time employees like the JPCO, they got to pay them out. They would argue about the independent contractors, but yeah, the shareholders are going to get shafted. The board, to the extent they have wages or whatever else, they might be paid, but they're also on the hook. Sizzling Scientist says, surely filing for bankruptcy doesn't give them the get out of jail free card. They're still held to pay for embezzlement and someone on the hook. Yes. So let's pull this up real quick. So bankruptcy is only protecting them from the wage part. Bankruptcy protects them from the wages. It does not protect them from any of this. It does not protect them from the state law or the federal crimes or hell, even the civil claims. At a certain point, they might even be suing the CEO or the COO or whatever else to try to recover this because of their culpability. So it doesn't get them out of the charity stuff. It only gets them out of the wage side. Remember, there's two parts of this. Unpaid wages and charity. They're separate and they can be dealt with separately. So that's the crazy part. And behind, welcome. Lambda Driven says, are there any deep pockets Ironmouse could go after for personal earnings if VShojo is insolvent? Would the VCs on the board be liable? I would go after the officers. I would go after the officers of the corporation. I would go after the CEO. I would go after the CFO. Now, I'm not saying that guarantees she would win, guys. I'm not saying that guarantees. I would just say, as a lawyer, you try everything. And that's a try. Man, this sucks. We need a binder of doom on VShojo like TFE did for BPS and their cover-ups. Thank you. CS said for 20, this is late, but if VShojo was waiting for next year, does that matter? Isn't it a donation on behalf of Mouse? Isn't it Ironmouse's donation to claim, not VShojo's? I don't think they have that excuse. They have to pay that out. They have to pay that out to the charity or to Ironmouse to pay it. If they were going to argue, if their argument is this is her responsibility to send over, then they need to pay her. So that's the end of the day, what goes on there. That's what Ember's video of VShojo's cooked. Yep. Tommy Eklund said, with all this going on, let's take a moment to appreciate Danielle and the other mods. Obviously, Andrew, too. Thank you. Thank you to Danielle, JP Ravenfire, my great mods for 10,000 people plus almost 11,000 at one point moderating. You guys are awesome. Costandic says 15 talents unpaid for a year without a word. Unlikely ain't an option that they manipulated the easy marks in Ironmouse, but they did pay others, essentially letting Ironmouse pay the talents earnings. I don't know how many people were unpaid. You just said a number. I don't know whether that number's true. So I'm sorry, but I have to just be clear with what I do and don't know. Maybe you guys know more than me. Maybe there's more facts out there. So I don't know exactly how many people were not paid. I know some people were not paid. That's enough. And it's more than one. So you can make assumptions based off that. John Wolf said this is why VTubers are vulnerable to the type of abuse. They value privacy very high and are less likely to sue. Exactly. That's why VTubers are especially vulnerable and why corporations prey on the vulnerability of VTubers. They absolutely do. Not only do they do that, you see what they do behind the scenes with gaslighting her. And I do believe that, by the way. I absolutely believe that. That's a conversation I've heard at a corporation. Oh, you're important to us. You're so valuable, right? That's why we give you the hard work. That's why we make you work the extra hours. Andrew, it's because you're amazing and you're the top associate earner. That's why you have to come in on a Saturday. I've heard that one before. Blake C137 says, for maintaining anonymity, could the talents form a class action? There aren't enough of them for a class action, and really their situations are individualized, so no, but good thinking. Rod Breton says it'd be interesting to know what type of BS ethics training VShojo requires their employees to do while the corporation violates every ethical norm. Once again, it's all CYA. All that stuff is CYA, cover their butt. All that training and all the policies are not for the employees, they're for the corporation. Tommy Eckert says, Mel, Project Melody, just announced leaving VShojo less than 10 minutes ago. She was part of founding of the company. That says a lot. That says a lot. When somebody's part of the founding says they're out. TV Terry Table says, can case on suing California despite living in Japan, other towns living overseas? Yes, 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 yes. Let's play the clip.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. California company, absolutely. They can look at it from a residency. From the residency is irrelevant. It's California company owes them. They can do it. Now, there may be an argument. They may try to argue venue or whatever else, but they could try it. They could definitely try it. Frankenstein said, do you think it's possible to have people versus VShojo case as people donated specifically for a charity for VShojo to not do that? Would that be considered a false advertisement? That's what I think I got into with the civil case. So there's a lot of different grounds for the civil case. And that's one possible one. Amelie just announced she's leaving. Look at this. Guys, look at this. Look at this. With all these people, how are they going to do it? It's impossible. That's why I said VShojo's dead. VShojo's dead, guys. I don't say that flippantly. Like, you can't get a laundry list of people leaving and say, oh yeah, our corporation is going to run on one VTuber. No. Erdi, as a new member, welcome. Okay, I'm just gonna go for the top. Jonathan says Kson hasn't been paid since September. That's a lot. Legal Mindset showing us his PP again. You got it. It's VShovo. They're 100% cooked, 1000%. For their talents and fans, it is a vile betrayal. Honestly, I'm very angry. Both Henny and Mousy were my Oshis, and they both got defrauded, especially Mousy. And I don't think we've heard from Henya left. I don't think we've heard from Henya yet, right? Henya hasn't talked yet. Let me pull this up right now. I don't think Henya said anything right now. I'm pretty sure Henya hasn't made an official statement on it, but I think she's going to. So tomorrow, tomorrow for Henya. So I'm going to pay attention to Henya and what Henya has to say, and there might probably be a Henya update. I'll put like the tea kettle on there, and we'll get it going. I gave a golden chat to IDF. Donate plasma. Awesome. Silence One says, Kson just quit on live stream with CEO. Make sure you catch it. I did. I got the whole thing. Master Goa said, when you get a VTuber bottle, can you make one like Jack Banhammer of Mullet Mad Jack? I don't even know what that is. I didn't even look that up. Nathan Levy says, sounds like someone at VShojo needs to go to jail for this. They may. Vodka Hay said the staff of VShojo might have working immune systems. Will that make them immune to lawsuits? Nope. Tommy Eklund says, our chat here during the Kson stream was amazing. Cheers, guys. The stream was insane. It was. And we have almost as many people here in this chat as then. So, guys, make sure you like the stream. That really helps out for engagement and helps get the word out there. Hopefully, you guys appreciate this analysis. I try to do the best to be entertaining and educational, although I do apologize. I can't make jokes as much today because this isn't funny. This is fucking serious. And this is a charity being defrauded. This is people losing wages for a year. It's not funny. It's I can make jokes here and there, and I usually do. This is not a lighter subject. This is a serious one. If VShojo goes bankrupt, are they legally clear? They're going to try to argue they're going to get out of the wages. They won't get out of the fraud. Crimson Overture said, what does this mean to the VTuber community after this if the U.S. government gets involved like the IRS or FTC? Don't worry about it. They're getting involved because of fraud. You want the government to crack down on fraud. You don't want the government to let fraud happen. So if they're going to do anything, they pretty much should take care of fraud. I'm on the side of that. Once again, I'm not a big government guy, but people who know me personally know that. However, I'm honest with what they should regulate. This is something they should regulate. Yes. Ryobi said this will be like Idle Corp. Many talents will leave in mass. The training money not being delivered is reminding me of the completionist 3 years ago. Mr. Janico says, I thought it can get worse. It can't get worse than EG. This is worse than EG. 100%. Yokai Watch Bracelet said, did not expect to wake up to this, but I caught alive. Imagine me when I woke up and my inbox has 50 new messages and my email, my X account is slammed with this information. Spectre said, how do you think the IRS will react? If they misreported their taxes, they're in big trouble. The IRS is not going to have a good time. They're not going to have a good time with the IRS. All signs in the sky point to VShojo tanking, bankruptcy. Destroy the black company, not join them. Clever Goblinson, legal mindset. What's worse is Tectone made mention that there's worse stuff he's not allowed to say. It's a typical colossal iceberg. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. And some of the stuff is probably personal. And the reason why he can't say it is because it's personal stuff. And if he said it, it would give away the person. And that would be something that probably they're going to argue is covered by an NDA or confidentiality. So because many cases, and by the way, this happens with me all the time. People leak me information. I don't always talk about what I'm given. Sometimes people give me information and number one, it's not vetted, or I think it's ridiculous, or there's no backup. So I don't talk about it. I just say like, okay, that's cool, but nothing yet. That's a nothing burger. A lot of this information is being verified by the fact that it's coming from multiple people and it's the same thing, right? So unpaid wages for a long period of time. That tends to make that more credible information. Seamus says, where do the cost expenses of VTuber codes go that make them end up so upside down? They aren't paying their talent. There's a lot of places. It can be staff or it can be shareholders. Shareholders can be taking large profits, and that very well could be it. It could be that the shareholders just got greedy. And we'll be talking tonight, U.S. time. Cool. Stoggle says, hello from Taiwan. Hey, I love Taiwan. Can previous members still sue for unpaid wages? Yes, they can if they're within the statute of limitations. Mr. Palma, thank you for the 20 legal mindset memberships. Also had some other big memberships. Let me get those here. Thank you. You guys are based. Triple J gifted 50 legal mindset memberships. Mazrova Palma with 50 legal mindset memberships. E Rich with 20 legal mindset memberships. Unbound Valkyrie with 10. Warranty Void with 20. Zypher Warrior with 5. Thank you guys for the massive, and then another one from Mazrova Palma for 20. Thank you guys. I will say the VTuber community is awesome and that you guys have been some of the most supportive of me, of my coverage, and of a lot of things I do. And I appreciate you guys. Senpai notices you. And I'm glad to be part of this community. And I'm glad that you trust me with this analysis and respect my input. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. And I hope you guys understand that I am out. My intention is to be better for the talent, is to help the talent here, and is to bring more justice to the overall VTubing industry, which I see as rife for corruption, rife for problems, and rife for legal issues. Kid Loco said, is a coffin dance for VShojo Company. Giga, Mata, Zen, now Mouse, Project Melody next. Yep. Kraus said, there's a special place under there for those who F with charity, especially one who's suffering that illness. I agree. Tire Man said, how the hell did VShojo think they get away with something like this? The IRS is going to have a field day. Agree. You mean the case unquote? Yes, the case unquote. In fact, I'm just going to leave this one up. In fact, this just needs to be up permanently. So we're just going to keep this one up. It's my new, I live by this one. And people who know me know I've liked Kason for a long time, but I like her more after she said that. Sorry, not sorry. Muzzy for 20. Thank you. Ancient Thief as a new member. Thank you. Crimson Splat says, what would it take to pierce the corporate veil and go after the board's personal assets? We need to see documentation that they personally knew that they were committing a crime and they did it anyways. So if they were committing a crime knowingly, maliciously, then we can do what's called pierce the corporate veil and we can go after their personal assets. So we need communications that prove that. We need documents that prove that. Akakun said, many forget VShojo is a California US HQ, not JP. And legally speaking, JP CEO was doomed from the start due to JP slander, amongst other things. Yes, JP, he needed to be very careful, and he still needs to be very careful. And I would say for the employees also need to contact their lawyers. Also, Wildcat said, don't forget the CFO just left the company. His job is chief financial officer. Everyone is on gun run. But what happened to cause the CFO to leave? That might be it. I'm back. Is this live? Yep. Mr. Floridian says, what VShojo did is a crime called embezzlement, which is a felony. It could be. Ericana Senpai says, first Ironmouse, then Kason. This could end up being the biggest VTuber industry since Cover and Coco. This is going to be bigger than that because Cover didn't go under because of that. VShojo is going under, kids. This is the end. E-Rich is whipping out that PP for Mousy as fast as you can. Okay, that's funny. Tomlin said, didn't VShojo pay off Kuro's debt, which was a lot? I have no idea about that. Millennial Chicken says, VShojo better learn to put the fries in the bag. Project Melody is out. Another founder is gone. VShojo dead 100%. Agreed. Nurple said, considering that Ironmouse spoke and made a presentation with U.S. Congress about the charity, can we expect Congress to take interest? Yes. I can expect there's somebody in Congress who is getting a call. And thank you, Kaga. Thank you, Big Buddhist. But yeah, there's somebody who is getting a call about this and getting the FTC involved, which is not going to be fun for anybody. Angry Demon Noise says the Mousy Tiltify has exceeded 350K. It's pretty spicy. And once again, let me pull that up. I'll get Case on back here in a second. Don't you guys worry. But I've got that pinned here. Just want to make sure that we all see that. I'm going to pull that up here on a tab just so you guys see this. This is a Tiltify. If you guys want to donate and make sure it actually goes there, not into the coffers of some greedy corporation, go over here. Guys, during my stream, this has gone up 36K during my stream. How about this? Before we finish, I bet we can get this to 400K. Come on, legal mindset people. We can get this to 400K. We got 10,000 people here. Let's get this to 400K, right? Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's do it for her. Let's get to 400K. It's in the, you guys can see this in the chat. It's pinned. I'll spam it there one more time and my mods can kind of put it out there as well for you guys in the chat. But yeah, we can donate here. Let's get it to 390 at least. We can do that. I love you guys. Appreciate you. And once again, this is going directly to the charity, not to some scam from a corpo, which is how it should be. Ideally. Okay. Let's continue here. Bald Eagle said it's time to rooting for the IRS to come in like a wrecking ball. What a weird world we live in. Stealing from charities is big no. Yeah, it's one situation where I'm rooting for the IRS. I rarely root for the IRS. This is one situation I am. Muzzy said, best of luck to VShojo. What a mess. I agree. But happy Tuesday. You guys are degenerates. Thank you. Oh, well, do I have to play that clip? Hold on. I haven't played that one in a while. Where's that? Here we go.
Degenerates. You guys degenerates.
Classic VTuber clip. Big L says, with their desire for privacy, odds on a lawsuit, I think they're going to settle it or it's going to get dealt with in bankruptcy before it gets to a civil suit, just because I don't think VShojo has the time. AZN says, that kind of really sucks for Mouse. High legal mindset. Finally get to watch it from work. Awesome. DSP outlives another one. Who can stop King Phil? Chaos Sonic says, then when this goes to Discovery, I bet the first paycheck was not sent to the IDF. Oh yeah, no, they should have sent it immediately, and they definitely did not do that. Music and Fiction says she's telling us very clearly there will be a story at some point. There will be dinner, but we must wait for legal preparation to be done. And you know when that'll happen? It'll happen after bankruptcy. After they declare bankruptcy or they're otherwise insolvent, they're going to have the story come out. When VShojo rolls up as a corporation, which it will, just wait. We're going to get all the juice, and it's going to be juicy as hell. We're going to make a smoothie out of it. It's going to be great, but it can't come out now, and you can't pressure them to make it come out now. You Guy Boss says, well, watch this at home. Already donated $100 to IDF. VShojo still needs to donate the $515. Yes. JPCO sounds like he's mid-management. Yeah, exactly. He's not the head guy. He's not that guy. Showro said, no insanity plea. I have multiple sclerosis, so I can relate. I'm sickened by this. Want to be a VTuber still, but we'll be indie. Cool. Nux got his vindication. There you go. Linux says remaining talent will have nothing to do with this. They're not just going to have nothing to do with it. They're going to get out. Amelie is gone. Zen is tracking Doxer in VShojo. Also, Cite Nux vindication. People are, embezzlement works until it doesn't. Post Eklund is really cool to see viewers donating. I have watched this since being 11 years old, 11 minutes old, being 46K now at UHost. If you're able to start a group for representation, what would it look like? Oh, like a VTuber group? Like if I was going to start a VTuber group? I think the important thing for a VTuber group, if you're going to start a group, and I'm assuming that's what you meant, if you're going to start a company or whatever, is to start very small, hire people that are proven, that can return, that are successful already as an indies, and then help them be better. So provide money to people that are proven to help them be better. So essentially, you're like giving them their seed capital to do more, to do like crazy concerts, to do more, to merchandise, stuff like that. So you're taking people that are successful and doing more. That is a good model. And I think you could do that in the right way. And that would be a benefit to the talent and a benefit to the company, right? That's where I think that would be useful. But once again, very limited. You don't have a huge amount of talent. Braxia gifted 20 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you. Wind Up Terminus says, if VShojo try to get out of the charity donation by claiming they never agreed on it and just something that Ironmouse said, that's where we need documentation. So I said in the beginning, I am taking Mouse's word on this. So I'm believing her, but I need to see, and the court would need to see, or the regulators would need to see. So I'm getting a little dry here, speaking for over 1 hour and 46 minutes. And we haven't cleared the queue. I'm gonna have to move back this. Here, Premiere. Let's just knock that back a little bit. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, nice. Yeah. So, given the timing, do you think Marta Kuhn's dismissed may have something to do with her making a fuss internally? Yes, probably. The people leaving now all had the same problem. All of them. I guarantee you. Especially regarding wages. If they're not paying one, why would they pay the others? What would be the case if VShojo was an LLC? Now, their corporate structure is not going to matter here. Mark says you might want to take a look at Kaho's statement. She has more to say about a staff member who is a former member of a significant VTuber company. I will take a look at that in the future. Obviously, I don't have time to do it live. Andrew Scuffmaster Esquire, thank you. I think my PowerPoint was good today, guys. I think I didn't scuff it. I worked really hard on that, actually. Jonathan Hogan says, yeah, toss another corn in the Nux was right, Char. Project Melody and OG announced her departure. GamerCon says, damn, gun run is a Pinoy. This hurts as a Pinoy. Hey, listen, big love to my Filipino brothers and sisters. You know, the actions of one person don't represent everybody. I mean, there's bad people in every country. There's good people in every country. It doesn't represent everybody. Melody just posted she is leaving. They're done. All the evils in the world come from California. Hey, listen, if anybody is pained to say that California is doing something right, it's me. I've had so much professional issues with California and issues with the regulations, etc. But I have to say, she's got the best shot in California. I'm just honest. Once again, this is me being fair. Mobster says, Guten Tag, Uncle Mindset. Please change the picture on screen. And the petition, the typo in petition will force me to plead insanity for the swear jar. Rhythm said, Niji 2024, VShojo 2025, 2026 is going to be wild, like the Grim Reaper knocking on each company's door. Don't think that way. Hopefully it gets better. Could the charity sue on her behalf since they did not receive the funds? Sure, they could. Yes. The charity can get involved. Yes, they can. Ang Bryan says, I took a long time for Hololive to reach where they are now. I thought VShojo would go by the same route. I can't believe this situation. Aruna Senpai says, Ironmouse could still stay anonymous if she sues through an LLC or handles it privately. It depends on how the case is structured. For the labor part, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be real difficult. And they'll be able to depose her, and there's no way to get around, oh, this is the deposition of X and her name getting out there. Infinite Curly says, if Ironmouse files, will they be forced to reveal their identities? Yes. Having seen the contract, can the talents just wipe their hands of VShojo and quit? They effectively can. There's nothing that VShojo is going to be able to do to them because they're not paying them. So all the provisions that are related to withholding of wages don't matter. They haven't been paid. So the penalties in the contract, which relate to withholding their money and not paying them if they do certain things, those aren't going to apply because they haven't paid them. They're owed a bunch of money. So yeah, they could just quit. There's nothing stopping them from quitting. Wouldn't be surprised me if VShojo didn't pay intentionally to hoping the talent wouldn't sue and they lose their anonymity in the filing. Yeah. Mayhem said if they knew they were going to charity, they should have set up an escrow. Yes. Gearling said everyone has removed their VShojo, and that's a sign it's going down. Knight says, given the situation, maybe we should buy them. No. Vidolo says, do not blaspheme against the Emperor of Mankind. Blessed is he on his golden throne. I'm a big 40K fan. Jimmy the Hand says, if VTubers operate on LLCs, will that help? What I said is it might if they change the law and allow them to protect themselves. If there's a good, reasonable basis for protecting their identity, etc., I think that would be the thing that they could do. But it currently doesn't exist. It's a hypothetical. I really like the financial background information during COVID and the whole more practical to borrow. Yeah, during COVID, this is crazy. I saw 1% interest. I'm not kidding you. This is to a corporation. 1% interest rate. 1%. 1%. Inflation is more than 1%. Spoiler alert, in case you guys didn't know that, which means the price that money is losing its value over year, right? So there was no reason not to borrow. I financed for corporations borrowing not millions, billions of dollars, right? That I saw fly across my desk, right? A lot of money was borrowed. It's not understated. But the problem is they got drunk on that money. They got drunk on that debt. They got drunk on those loans, and they were always operating behind, always hoping they could catch up on a prayer and a dream. Eric says, thank you for Eric, for the 249 pesos. The last member of VShojo has left the company. Marshop for 2, thank you. Manata Man says, do you think Ironmouse crunched some numbers and made calls to find this out, or was it likely VShojo staff leak? I think she talked to a lawyer. I really do. Shui said, tell that to Boeing. Marshall said, sorry, I forgot to send the rest of the chat. Listening to LM while keeping the public safe. Go air quality professionals. Shout out to you. Once again, everybody has an awesome job out there. Would donors have to sue Mouse or VShojo? They could sue VShojo. They could try. Once again, the defense they're going to have is, oh, it's her responsibility, not mine. I don't think that's going to fly. Tetsuya says, imagine VShojo will garner just as much hate as the completionists did when they withheld charity money. I think more. Kai Guy Nikki said the money went to horse racing. The horse game, yes. This is when they know they fucked up big time. Ryobi said this is truly the end. So much, and DN got out of retirement, and Rima is going to cover this later afternoon. Poor Parrot is sent back to the mines, but they're not the Niji mines, they're the VShojo mines. If they still have the 500K, can they avoid trouble? Yes, they could try to do that now. If they paid out the 500K right now, it would help them bigly. Jamie Ham said, did I hear golden? Thank you for that, and thank you for hitting the goal of total VShojo L. JG Rocket, thank you for 50 legal mindset memberships. You guys have been so generous today. Thank you for that. And welcome, John Wolf. H Engineer said, I think Ironmouse said that they had previous subathons where VShojo did donate. So there's precedent. Yes, exactly. So VShojo doesn't have much of a leg to stand on. Yes, this is a great point. So she had every reason to rely on them. And because they did it in the past, there's no reasonable basis why they wouldn't do it again. If it was the first time, they would have more of a defense. But because they did it before, they're screwed. That is a great point. That is a fantastic point. That they did it before and they didn't do it a second time. Huge point. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's a really good one. Usagi Akimbo said, Mouse visited U.S. Senator Jennifer Gonzalez to discuss the exact charity. Maybe we ought to let that senator know. Yes, you can. Write the senator. Write everybody. Why not? Say, hey, and all you got to say is this. Hey, we would like you to investigate this. That's all. Don't say we know these people are criminals, whatever. Say, please investigate VShojo and the charity money. Thank you. That should go to Edia. That's all you have to say. Please investigate it. Look into it. Because at a bare minimum, it deserves investigation. At a bare minimum, it deserves investigation. Even if there's no criminal prosecution, we need to get the truth here. What actually happened? Scientific fan fiction. Funny, VShojo website still is Ironmouse. They're not going to change their website like the same day, right? And obviously it looks really bad for them. Always liked her videos, LM. I was one that advocated for Kaysan to create a corpo of her own. She's in a unique position in the industry. I believe people could look up to her for trust and safety. Sure, if she wants to do that, but there's a lot of responsibility in that. Maybe Kaysan doesn't want to do that. Mr. Paradoxum says, Tectone knows Ironmouse and Unsub from the Unsub podcast. Guys know a lot of Congress reps. It's going to be fun. Yeah, awesome. Well, shout out to Techie. He's been really doing good coverage lately and really killing it. Rayobi says, this just came out. Mitchie said she hadn't been paid too, like Kaysan. Poor Mitchie. She had tax problems with Niji too. They cut her health care. She got it in time. I feel bad for her. She got screwed over multiple times. Lee Anime Fan says, I'm matched 1-for-1 for this stream to Donos to Mouse. What model is best for the talent? If not for the talent, the host, when no one loses. I think if you're going to go with a corpo, the only model that works is they're an employee, right? And you've got to have the responsibilities of an employee. And beyond that, I do think they need some guarantees and protections, right? That they're going to be able to do what they want to do and they're going to be paid on time. Zalraz says, do you think there's only hope for other talent freedom VTuber agency like Glitch Stars, who was founded in May? Glitch Stars are also a VTuber agency that counts keep their IP. Could it be successful? I don't know anything about this. You're asking me about an agency, which frankly, I've never heard of. So I don't think they're on the level of Cover or Niji Sanji or VShojo or even Face Connect. So is it possible some small VTuber corporation could work? Maybe, but I think Sakana, the Fishman, said it himself. It is very difficult for you to succeed. And most people do not know what it takes to run a corporation. To be completely honest, and I'm not trying to be harsh here, this is my complete honest opinion. Most of the small agencies are run by people that I would not allow to run a food truck because they have no business sense. They're essentially just friends that want to do stuff on the power of friendship, and they don't know jack about business. And that is a recipe for disaster. And there's money flies everywhere. They have no fiscal discipline. They have no plan. They have no vision. It's just all nebulous. There's no concrete goals. There's no objectives. There's no financial planning. So most small VTuber corporations are destined for failure because they're just a bunch of friends doing stuff. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. And it's a big difference between running a business and being the talent. Just because you're talent doesn't mean you're good at running it. So the CEO is not always good at doing the thing. So if you work for a car company, the CEO might know how to crunch the numbers, but does he know how to build the car himself? No. So just because you're a good mechanic doesn't mean you're going to be a good CEO or CFO, et cetera, right? And that, by the way, that's not to demean anybody. Everybody has their own talents and abilities, but you should really look critically at your own abilities and do what you're able to do best, right? I'm not the most technical person. I'm kind of a boomer, right? So I get help when it comes to technical stuff because I'm a boomer, right? In fact, I'm using the headphones when I don't even need them. Look at that. That's how boomer I am. Okay. Just started a charity. Find your channel through Hassan Drama. Appreciate all your covering justice for Mouse. Yeah, awesome. Wherever you're here for, whether you got here during the Hassan saga or somewhere else, you're welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. Anna Janice says, if VShojo kept the money, believing they wouldn't have to pay it back after filing bankruptcy, if a paper trail shows they did, does that make the executives personally liable? It could. Once again, I can't say yes. I have to say maybe. And that's because we don't have enough information yet. We could, though, at some point have enough information. Nathaniel Levy says, someone of VShojo JP apparently has been giving out personal information, images of the talents. Information came from Kaho and Zen. What? Now that is crazy. That's some crazy retaliation. Now that is some unhinged shit, if that's true. If they're going and doxing people. Face Connect is the only company I trust. Hopefully no controversy for the fish ban in 2026, okay? Can't believe we got VShojo and Pirate Software fraud and con in the same month. Hell, I just covered Pirate Software. That was yesterday. Andrew, how hard would it be to make a VTuber company here in the US? It would be very easy, but understand, okay, this is a great question. VShojo may be the end of US VTuber corporations insofar as the liability which they're exposed to and the fact that the JP and foreign entities aren't regulated and they're have all these protections of being abroad may convince the corporations to not form in the West and to form in the East, right? Stay in Japan, maybe Singapore, Korea, somewhere else, form over there and do their exploitive stuff because they're immune in their little island fortresses, right? And, Korea is effectively an island because of the northern border. But anyways, point of the matter is, I'm scared that because of the responsibility and liability and criminal penalties against VShojo, that they're going to stay out of the U.S. What we want is more in the U.S. so they can be held liable, but it's for that very reason why companies will stay out. And I'm just saying that's how companies think. Companies shop around for where to create their company. So they're going to think, hey, let's dodge them and let's stay somewhere else. Now, Canada is fine because Canada, you can sue very easily, right? So Face Connect is Canadian. It'd be very easy to sue in Canadian courts, right? Similar to America. It's America's hat, okay? But Japan is a whole different ballpark. The one instance where tax evasion is not based, yes. Jason Chul says, I certainly didn't expect a full talent walkout on VShojo when I went to bed. Neither did I. That's what I woke up to. But it kind of looks like that's where we're headed. It's where we're at. I don't even know who's left. Who's even left? Chat, who's left? Chat, who is left in VShojo? Who is not declared? Who is left? I want to see you in the chat. I don't know who's left right now. I don't even know. I've pretty much seen everyone. Nova Wave, Henya. No. I think Henya is like hinting at going too. I think Henya and Nova. Okay, but didn't Henya take it out of her title? Didn't Henya take it out of her title? So I think maybe tomorrow she's going to make the announcement. Let me put a stream here. Okay, so let's put it this: is Henya? Stop this. Make a poll here. Is Henya going to leave? Let's do the poll. And I know what is Henya leaving. Yeah. Do a little poll for you guys. I like chat interaction. I'm a man of the chat. Shane, says Illegal Mindset. A question streamer I followed asked yesterday: does NDA still apply if the company no longer exists? No, they do not, because the company's no longer there to enforce them. So yes, that's when we'll get all the information, when they no longer exist. Showro said, I wish for the best for my VTuber senpai. Oh, and for the memes. Explain insanity plea and how it could be applied. Suffer for our enjoyment. I am not doing the insanity plea stuff right now. It's an inside joke from the Somali case. If it was heavy-hitting streamers like Kason, Melody, and Henya and Michi leave, I don't think VShojo will survive. No way. Unlucky said, would there be any potential piercing the corporate veil if they can't pay their debts? Not the debts. It's related to more of the fraud. The charity fraud. That's where the real piercing will come in. Although it could come in the wages if it was a scheme to defraud them that they conducted over a long time. Tepnian said, I don't know what's going on, but I did get called into work today, so finally got a live stream. Sci-Fi Dude here. Love you, Andrew. Hey, love you guys too. CoffeeZilla will have a field day. Oh, he's going to have a great time. Nice Guys Rage says, if VShojo owns the rights to the name and models, what will happen? They don't. They're owned by the IP is owned by the VTubers. That is something I can confirm having read the contracts. Delphin said, how different is this from other bankruptcy cases? It's different in that they have a massive amount of unpaid wages and they have potential criminal liability. Fishman said he can't compete with virtue signaling corporate. Yeah, don't go down that road. FaZe has the value strat, do nothing and win. Zodak says the Ironmouse story even made it to Sports Illustrated. Yeah, it made a bunch of major publications. That's why I think this is done. This is not something that was just an internet thing. No offense to Doki, but Doki didn't make Sports Illustrated. Now, I think this is going to go even further. I think this is going to hit some front pages on major outlets over the next day or two. Risky Maid said, if you were the CEO of VShojo, how would you fix this? File bankruptcy right away. I would run into bankruptcy court right now. And that's not fixing it. And I would sell my mansion and I would pay the charity. Sell whatever assets you have to sell, buddy. Mr. Gun Run. Sell your assets. You know you got them. His San Francisco, whatever he's got over there, probably costs way more than $500K. Sell it. Pay. It's the right thing to do. Henya came over with a case on. I highly doubt she'll stay without her. With the amount of contracts that Ironmouse and AK Friends through Friends, this was over before it began. Mammoth says all the talents have removed their VShojo titles from their Twitter handles. Over half of Ian's side has announced they're leaving. I don't know how much JP besides Kason. And Kason says she's leaving. Well, okay, most people think Gura was the biggest VTuber, but in ways, Mouse was bigger. She is the worst VTuber to screw over, as many friends in the industry and beyond. Yes, Mouse was beloved by so many people. And also, let's face it, guys, Mouse is the nightmare plaintiff. The nightmare plaintiff. In court, you never want to go against somebody who's sympathetic. So you don't want to go against the person in a wheelchair, the little old lady. And essentially, and this I say this with respect, the bubble girl in Ironmouse, right? She can't go outside. It's risks her health or whatever. You do not want her as a plaintiff. That is a nightmare from a PR standpoint. You are picking on a person that is a disability. It's a physical disability, right? You're picking on essentially a disabled girl, right? That is insane, right? It's insane. And it's disgusting. And, it's not what imagine a jury. Do you think a jury is going to have sympathy for a corporation over Ironmouse? Hell no. Hell no. More like death by 1,000 cuts. Yep. Feel bad for the Nova girls that just joined. I know, but once again, some people, you get shafted. You just join at the wrong time. Marksman says, hello, finally caught a stream. Morning. Good morning. VShojo imploded before the Epstein file was released. Oof. Almanac says, doesn't the contract require reciprocity to be valid? If they haven't paid them in 10, is the NDA still enforceable? They're going to argue it is. I would argue it isn't. That's a good point. Marksman said, could the other talents end up being liable to pay? I don't think so. Ryobi said, anti-Rima in the chat. Hey, Rima. Appreciate her. Love my horse girls. I didn't send a snapshot in the X. The girls putting out VShojo name. They've all removed it. Now, important note. They still have the little VShojo icon. It's an icon that's given by X, but they're the profile that they control, they deleted. So I think there's like an X thing where they have to get rid of the little logo, but they removed it for the name, the part they can control. So there's like a little V by them. I think they've got to change that. Jake said, could other VShojo talents bring class action? No, not enough for class action. And not similarly situated. I mean, they could if there were more of them, but I don't think there's enough. Moving forward, what should VTubers and other online talent do to protect themselves? First and foremost, if you can be indie, be indie. Okay? If you can be indie, be indie. Ask yourself, why do you need to be in a corpo? Do you need friends? Is that it? The other ways to make friends. Do you need support? There's ways to get support. Also, there's agencies that do just like marketing or advertising, like a Mythic sort of situation where you might be able to get a just like baseline level of support. You don't necessarily need a corpo. Keen said, could they use her want to stay in on? Yes, they will abuse that and try to use that against her. Judy said, Mitchie has also revealed she also has owed money. It's just making the case, Junie. Just making the case. Mosey said, does this VShojo downfall prove their whole business model was wrong to begin with? And why most corpos? No, I don't think it disproves the business model. I think it shows you that every corporation, even the ones that say talent first, even the ones that virtue signal, they are corporations. As much as you may love them, they have a profit motive. And if push comes to shove, they will save themselves. They're on the Titanic and they're throwing the women and the children in and they're jumping in the boat. Jimmy the Hand says for 10 Oz says the new IDF fund has now surpassed 400,000. Guys, you did it. Very based. I asked you guys to get over 400,000 on the stream. And not only did that, you went above and beyond. You went above and beyond. Thank you so much.
Hello, Beso Department.
Not a sin. I cannot absolve you. Mega based.
Gigabase. Thank you guys so much for that. Appreciate that for everybody out there who donated. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. And even if you didn't do it because of me, whatever, it's so cool to see that thriving. And I guarantee you that's going to get over 500K. I guarantee you they're going to make more money than they lost. And that's awesome. That's so great. And this is why the VTuber community is awesome. You know, people say what they want to say about VTubers. I don't care. I see the actions of the community, and the actions of the community, especially regarding charity, are amazing. And they're irrefutable. Sunflash says, you've said several times the indies should not have someone they call manager. What should someone handling that? An assistant. They should be an assistant. They're an assistant. A manager implies control. They're your assistant. And I know people don't like that because it sounds like it's less. I'm sorry, get over it. The problem with manager is it implies a level of control and power. I think the most interesting thing in all of this for me is a LinkedIn page for VShojo had all posts removed. Yes, the COO deleted it. I was going to pull it up and he deleted his page. He deleted his page. You broke the most important rule. Never go full. Sig Potato said VShojo imploding was not my bingo card. Neither me. Ape together strong. Thank you guys. Henya Joy's fade should fit right in. Reach over 400K. Thank you guys. American VTuber companies are scams. Japanese ones are black. Canadian and European ones, total free and fair victory. Amerimut L. Now, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think, once again, every corporation, even Euro corporations, looking at you, Ubisoft, have the ability to be very bad. I don't think there's a country that has pure corporations and other countries don't. I, as someone especially who lives abroad, I see corrupt corporations in every country. With so many not paid, they could form a class. I don't think there's enough. I still don't think there's enough. Kai Guy Nikki said insanity plea. Mass exodus VShojo Skyfall. Now, what they could do, here's what they could do, guys. They could pool legal resources. They could all have the same lawyer to file their individual claims in California. They could do that because they're not adverse to each other. So they could use the same lawyer who's familiar with the facts. That would be smart. Just a little thought there. Think about using the same lawyer because there's no conflict there. So they could use the same lawyer or law firm, right? That's possible. Going for gold said, hey, LM, you inspired me to retake the LSAT 168. Awesome. You did. So the first time I took the LSAT, I got a 162. And then I retook it 170, right? But really, congratulations. That's awesome. Dude, it's so hard to do well in the LSAT. I know how much studying takes, so congratulations. So I said, I love you. Thanks for the summaries. Learned a lot. Thank you. And there's going to be a fast facts version, which is the condensed version. By the way, the condensed version of this is 30 minutes almost. It's 28 minutes. So this is how fired up I am. This is how important this is. And I'm glad to talk to you about it and be on this 2-hour stream, which is my longest stream in a while. But we're not going to have a 7-hour stream like Doki. Could the VTubers jump on chat as donors? Class action, retain their anonymity? No, they're not going to be able to maintain their anonymity through a class action. That's not going to work. Anime Exceptionalism said, we work as a lawyer when you heard the corporate gaslighting phrase, you're so important to us. That's why you have to work Saturday. Yes, at a law firm. I was at a law firm. They said that to me. You're our top money maker. That's why you have to work on Saturday, because you're so important. And my response to that should have been,
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
but I was kind of at that point in my career, believe it or not, I was kind of keeping my head low. I was kind of gun shy. Now I'm not that person anymore. Vic Rage says every member, including JP, has removed VShojo, so they've decided to leave. Seems like they decided to leave. My Japanese is not good enough to confirm. I believe that's the case. Prayers for a mouse if it goes to court. Good on her counsel for advising her what not to say and say. Exactly. And respect them. Respect the mouse. Respect all of them. As of today, I'm leaving VShojo, even though I've never been part of it. They can't stop me from walking away. Spider Bros says apparently Zen just announced that someone working with VShojo was leaking out. That's a problem. And we will cover that and the criminal ramifications for that. Because especially with California, which has electronic cyber stalking and other protections, right? Cyberbullying protections, right? You cannot reveal people's personal identifying information with intent to intimidate. So once again, they could be breaking the law by doing that. And I hope they understand that. On the favorite letter, who's your favorite JJBA stand user? Mine is Darby the Gambler. Also, keep up the work. Oh, that's hard. That's hard. That's a hard one. I'd have to think. I mean, Darby's good. That's a good guess. It's been a while. I have to think for a second. Whittier Axe says, Mel has left, Amelie has left, Mitchie just announced on stream that Azate she's leaving and hasn't been paid. It's all coming to a head. Talent freedom from paychecks. Jay Mayhem said, if they show evidence needed, can Mouse pierce the corporate veil on the civil side? Yes, it's possible. Killer D said all the JP members tweets out, mostly saying they're sorting and getting information. Many have removed. What they should be doing is contacting a lawyer because they all need lawyers. They all need lawyers. Syphilis says, make a smoothie. I love smoothies. I'm here for it. There we go. Can you say a Junie Smoothie? Shout out to Junie. Good friend of mine. Good VTuber. Argonaut says, if there is a lawsuit, could the courts remove any of the victims' PII from the records? There's not an exemption for VTubers. I'm sorry. I want this, okay? But I'm telling you the truth. There's no VTuber exemption in the law. I'm sorry. And it doesn't exist. Now, in other countries, there are ways to do it, but not in America, which is where all these things would go down. So no, in the U.S. courts, it's not going to happen. So I'm sorry, right? Taco Burrito says, if there's something that's happening in Hollow, could they come out with it now or wait? HoloLive? Why? What's going on HoloLive? Why are you bringing HoloLive into this? I'm not aware of anything in HoloLive right now. If the money isn't there, since $500,000 is insane, would the settlement come from, well, their personal, I mean, they can liquidate their personal assets and pay if they wanted to. The question is, do they want to? Joshua Villarreal for 20. Thank you. Just Esteban, literally just Esteban, says shots fired by VBay over on Twitter. Vebe, I haven't seen it, but once again, I guarantee you people are going to have trouble with my coverage. People try to defame me and say all types of shit talk all the time. And I'm going to put some money in the swear jar for that. But at the end of the day, I'm talking about objective law and objective facts. And if people want to debate me, they can debate me on the law, and we can argue on the law. And I'm happy to argue on the law. Let's see here. So yeah, here's the melody thing, by the way. So here's the quote. So you guys see it. So you can see from Project Melody. I waited to make a statement because I'm anxious and struggle to find words. Yes, I'm leaving VShojo. I was an OG talent. I put everything into this. I think she meant corp. This is a misspelling. But I'm beyond devastated at what happened. And never in a million years thought I'd be saying these words. So even Project Melody is out of VShojo. Even in OG. That says a lot. That says a lot. Regardless, the whole story might come directly from Mousy, considering this is what she wants to sell. Hopefully, Sakana remains ethical. I hope so too. I hope so too. Oh, shots fired were at the company? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Thought it was towards me. You guys were me. Also, Ludwig's tweet. Okay, let's answer. Let me address this. Let me address the elephant in the room. Ludwig. Okay, Ludwig. Oh my God, Ludwig. Okay, let's go to Ludwig's tweet. Okay. Ludwig said something kind of stupid. And Ludwig did something stupid, and I'm going to call Ludwig out specifically on this, okay? Let me see. Where is he? Okay. This is dumb. Now, I know what he meant. He was trying to be hyperbolic. Here's what I said my comment down here, right? He said they're a terrorist organization. Now, I don't think it's necessarily slander, but it's careless and it's legally inaccurate. Calling them a terrorist organization is not accurate. There's a lot of things you call them: a black corporation, a corrupt corporation, a bad corporation, a potentially criminal corporation. But it isn't terrorism legally, right? There's a lot of things you call them. So, like, I try to stick to the like actual things that are, like this is a factual thing I'm saying, right? But yeah, he's trying to be hyperbolic. I get it. It's being cute. I know what he's trying to say there. Death99ification gifted 20 legal mindset memberships. By the way, I don't think they'll sue him for slander at this point because they're going under. They don't have time to sue everybody for defamation. Naaman says the personal information reveal was a JP douche that came from another corpo. It's secondhand info. As in, a friend told me they were showing these things type of info. Tagged you on the thread. Thank you. I'll look at it later. The news is at Newsweek. That's it. Newsweek. Yeah, that's massive. If Mouse sues, doesn't she dox herself? She would eventually dox herself. Maybe not in the initial filings, but eventually. Couldn't they still be anonymous if they use one lawyer? Just a thought? Nope. As far as contracts go, I'm off the mindset, off ask questions. Yeah, I mean, trust me, the contract is not going to stop anything. Infamous says it's going to be the biggest VTuber drama. I'll wait for the documentary. It's not over. This is going to go on. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to have a follow-up when they declare bankruptcy, right? Here's the insolvency of, VShojo. Like, that's going to be another episode. We don't know. I'm speculating, but it's a damn good guess. And there's no indication that they can become solvent again. Sunny Dragon said, could it be possible that Ironmouse could keep her model? She's going to keep her model. The contract says they keep their models. She keeps her model. VShojo said they should have paid the pipers. How similar is this to Enron? Not full Enron, but it's definitely misplaced funds. Cammy said, I think VTubers need a union. It would be a lot. Unions only work if it's in the same country. So, like in this case, yes, a VShojo California union might work against the California company, but how is that going to help against a Japanese corporation? It's not. Brony said Ironmouse was the face of VShojo. I think everyone knew it was coming when Zentraya left. VShojo isn't going to recover. Not a possibility. Have you seen a phase contract? If so, do they have labeled? Yes, I have seen it. I don't want to say. I respect the fish ban, so I don't want to say. But I will say this. I understand why they do it the way they do it. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of reasons why they do things the way they do. And I'll say this. Canada has very strict labor laws. So I understand. Okay? I understand. I'm pushing for something that is going to be painful for the VTuber industry, and the corpos aren't going to like it. Even the fish ban wouldn't like it. But I think it is best in the long run. That's my personal opinion, right? About that. I still love FaZe. I love the FaZe girls. I love them all. But once again, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to stand here and say, yeah, it's all great, gravy. You know, I mean, there's obviously things the industry as a whole can improve. And once again, you know, industries get better over time. I wait Mujin's video. Mujin's a friend of mine. I like Mujin. Good stuff. Psychopanic said, could the talent sue or use it to take control of any active merch deals? They might be able to take control of merch deals. I don't think they can take control of the corporation. Would you be able to handle case of VTubers? No, I am not the person to do that. I'm reporting on the news. I report on the coverage. They need to find a local attorney where they are. You know, that's their thing. Now, if they're like located in Thailand where I'm at, I can hook them up with a Thai attorney, or if they have questions, I can help them find an attorney. So if they need help, I can help them find an attorney, right? That's fine. I will help them find an attorney, but I am not personally going to be doing it. No. Digital TA says Nanya and Kitana are graduated for a new opportunity. Hope they don't win Kurosanji auditions. Well, won't matter after bankruptcy. No, I know. Oh, wait. No, I can't say. I may have some information on where I think they're going. 100% cuts for all the talents and only profit from merchant sponsorship. Yet all I saw was 100% debt. Another example of money corrupts. The more of it, the higher chance of it. That's right. That's right. You guys got me almost slipping up here. Hey, like, yeah, calling me out here. I gotta stay quiet. Beard says, if Connor sues on behalf of Mouse, wouldn't that keep her privacy so her identity wouldn't be doxxed since he's helping the other one? Connor can't sue on behalf of Mouse. Connor can sue on behalf of him giving a donation. So Connor can sue as a donor. So Connor gave a lot of money. Connor can sue the corporation as a donor saying he was defrauded. Yes, he can sue VShojo in a private cause of action. Now, you guys mentioned class action. The donors could form a class action. That's what they could do. So the donors themselves could form a class action for a civil suit against VShojo. Not the talents, the donors. That's possible because there's a lot of them and they're harmed by the same event. That's possible. Good call on the class action there. Got me thinking about that one. The donors are a class. The donors 100% can. Yeah, 100%. So that's a possibility. Chagris says, VShojo's AVP of Finance announced manage all approval process for outgoing payments and budget allocations. Yeah, that would be it. He's getting deposed. Annoying VShojo is based in the UK is we have good anonymity laws with people who are vulnerable and want their IP. Oh, really? Cool. Do you see Zentraya's tweet? People have talked about it. Chris Kid Cosplay said if VShojo goes bankrupt, do the talent's NDAs end? Yes. Zdex says since Ironmouse is getting daily death threats, could she become a protected victim? Nah, that's probably not going to work. Pierce the Corporate Veil. It's my favorite band. Orenji said, isn't that why Fitchman is successful? Coffee company first, VTuber second. Yeah, sure. Ears, nice ears. They're exposed now. I just love the dream. So we talked to Nux, the Blue Voldemort. I remember VTuber screwing over. Nux and I are friends. We talk behind the scenes. He's a good guy, and he's always been polite to me. I respect people based on their personal relationship with me. If they are polite and kind to me, I am polite and kind to them. I don't have to endorse them in all their views. I can disagree with people's views and still talk to them and be friendly. That's part of being a professional. I can talk to people who I disagree with politically or who I disagree with on certain issues or points, and I can be polite and respectful to them. That's part of being an adult. I guarantee you that there's a lot of VTubers that if I talk to them, we would disagree politically or with some issue or some finances or whatever else. That's fine. I'm okay being around. I have friends that disagree with me on things. I'm okay with that. I can live in a world where not everybody agrees with me. I am perfectly fine with that. How does your hair look good after removing headphones? I just got a head dent thinking about putting them on my head. I don't know. It's magic. It's magic. Outbar said, just sent you a new post about 50 minutes ago. Zen was revealed that VShojo was releasing information. Henya is absolutely gone. Damn. Once again, I think there can be criminal penalties for that. So I don't think it's funny that they're having to experience that threat. It's not okay. How could VShojo have not done this with malice? I think this was done knowingly. And now malice is a high standard. Knowingly, for sure. Recklessly, yeah. Peter says a depth trial and Drex is wonderful ridiculousness. Wild ride, great times. Looking forward to the Gator 2 model. Thank you. Cheers. Megan said the Henya said she'd only leave her house for Mouse. She is leaving. That's crazy. Knight said Glitch Stars is another group of Chubas. Lately been spreading the word of the Emperor of Mankind. That's no joke. Go check their channels of odds. Cool. Mr. Weibo said hello from France. I've been knowing you for a long time, but only recently subbed to you since your Hassan Orbiter coverage. You're killing it. Thank you. And welcome to the channel. And hope you're doing well. Salut over there in France. Cheers to all you and yours. Amelie is out, and that's 5 in 24 hours. 400K reached. Here's for those that needs for the Ironmouse and what's right, Soju. Cheers to that. I'll take a Soju shot after this one for Mousy and her success for her charity. Because let's celebrate the wins. Let's look at the white pills on this. The charity winning is a huge, massive white pill. Alexia says, Vebe recently posted that the reasons they left back in 2023, they've been insolvent for a while. That's what I imagine. Nux is enjoying the downfall of VShojo. I'm sure he is. Boca Rune said the IDF fundraisers are over 400K. Absolutely brilliant. Love it. Members who haven't officially announced their departure: Henya, Hime, Nagi, Pekka, Hotoru, Haruka Fruit. Hold on. Some of those members have removed VShojo from their profile, which is a hint that they're disassociating. So while they haven't officially made an announcement, they've done something that implies they're separating themselves. So I think it's a fair point. However, good listing, and thank you for giving that information. Did VShojo take your LawTuber model? Name and shame them. As the VTubing becomes older, options for talent start to appear, and corpos have to do more in order to retain them. Just hope no lobbies form. Yeah. The real Thanos says, could there be legal avenues if they prove there were never any intention for the company to pay contractors by exploiting bankruptcy? Yes. If they can prove that they were always trying to shaft them, that was their plan, and they were always trying to not pay them, that is a way they could hit the individuals that were responsible for that. Anime Gamer said, I'm sure there's a clip out there where VShojo forced Michi to get an independent lawyer. That's true. Having a lawyer seems to be an entry requirement. I'm sure all talents have the lawyers already. Okay, hopefully they went back to that same lawyer. Maybe try Wayback Machine for deleted in LinkedIn. Okay, I'll check it out. Wildcat said, I'd love to see IDF surpass 515,000 as an FU to VShojo. That'd be awesome. It's going to get there. Insanity Jar and Swear Plea. I think people at this point want to see the government kicking down doors. I agree. More like jelly wing. Death said, do you think this might change the way VTuber talent agencies operate or help push legislation? I hope this pushes regulation, but I do think it's going to change the way companies work. I think companies are going to really think about how they operate going forward, and especially economic viability. I don't think there's going to be a lot of VTuber corporations starting because it's not going to be viable. And the small ones are going to fail. I'm sorry, guys. The small ones are going to fail. Most small businesses fail. VTuber corporations don't have some magical exception from the fact that most small businesses fail. It's just a fact. And I'm sorry that uncle mindset has to be your uncle over here who tells you, hey, I got to be that asshole, right? Am I that asshole? Yes. That tells you your little hope and dream VTuber corp is probably going to fail. But you know what? You could pick it up, and if you learn something, that maybe the second or third time you start a VTuber corporation, it works because you learned something. All I would say is if you fail, try again. But remember what you learned from your failure. Failure makes us stronger. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is good. Screwing up is good because you learn, right? You learn. We only grow through failure. We only grow through it. And I think Ironmouse and all this, she's really hurting over this, but she's not a failure. This is not on her. She didn't fail. She can learn. She can grow as a person, as a human being, as a creator, as an individual, as a person who's making lovely content for people around the world. She can grow from this. Kason can grow from this. Mitchie can grow from this. They can all grow from this and be better. And that is the beauty of failure, is that it's the opportunity to become better. Killer Deed says the Zen tweet is kind of out of context. It's taken from the Kaho tweet, which states that someone in the company has been on record for showing pictures. Okay, guys. I mean, it's speculative at this point. I haven't seen it, so I'm going to have to take a look. Just Thank Raven said, this is the hydration police. We've called for Sir Andrew's lack of nutritious hydration. Please keep your hydration checks in order and clean. All just aside, thank you for the information. Hey, I got you. Oh, yeah. Wow. Actually, my throat is hurting right now. That was needed. Thank you, Dank Raven. Actually, let me drain this. That was needed. What do you think will happen with the VShojo void? They're going to be indie. There's no void. They're going to be indie. Is this comparable to Theranos? A little bit. If Mouth is suing so IDF can get the money while the donors are suing to get the money back, what takes precedent? Well, obviously the restitution to the people that donated would take precedent. However, Mouse can still bring claims against them for anything that was misappropriated. So, in essence, you're going to want to get as much information as possible. We want to figure out the truth. So we need all the pressure on them. So anybody that could sue, that can, I think needs to be talking to each other and formulating a plan. Because I think it would be good for the donors as a class to get together. Mitchie's stream just died. Any presumptions? A bunch of people in chat said she dipped. Could be that. It'd be interesting to see a company like Geeks Plus take on more VTubers. Hopefully they can provide the support VTubers need. I don't know much about them. JMM said, what are some ways that someone can keep their anonymity while suing? Are there any at all? It's really hard. You could try through a company, but the problem is they're going to depose you. They're going to question you. And your name on that deposition is going to be revealed. So even if you try to sue as a corporation, like for example, Ethan Klein sued all Casey Tron Denims or whatever as TED Entertainment. But in the facts of the case, your name is going to come out. So that's going to come out at some point, and it's really hard to protect that. And if anything, they're going to try to bring your name out to spite you because they're evil and they don't care. And they're going to pay lawyers that don't care and want to hurt you. Deverboy said, I got the stream late. Have we already looked at the transcript of Kason's conversation? I don't have the full transcript, but I watched it all and I got some as it goes translation. So I got the gist of it. So I covered the main points from that. The main points are the JP branch isn't a real thing. There's no legal distinction there. I don't think that guy was liable. He's more like a branch manager or a talent manager. He's not a true CEO. However, it shows that they're insolvent. It shows they're having money issues, and it shows they misallocated funds. And it shows they're paying the staff because they had to under labor laws versus not paying the talent as independent contractors. Kason, Karani, Mitchie, Project Melody, and Amelie also announced leaving this morning, citing the same reasons. Sven said, Brarybug has just stated they have signed a contract to join VShojo and asked to have it voided. She dodged a bullet. Dodged a bullet indeed. Where does this level of corruption spawn? It's pure greed. It's just greed. The corporations want the money, and they think about the money first. They think about themselves first, and that's how we end up in these situations. Will there be obligatory investigation if no one sues? Yes. I think the regulatory bodies are going to look in this one way or the other. The charity then is what killed VShojo. I think it's both. The wages and the charity are going to get them. As Mikulski said, don't try. Mouse will try, but VShojo will expose her ID. That's right. Mouse is going to try to stay anonymous. Her lawyer will try to protect her. But the evil VShojo will not. They will dox her. And legally, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. Can Mousy change her name to Ironmouse? Yes, but they could. What the evil corporation is going to do is use her former name. And they're going to say FKA, formerly known as, or whatever, they're going to do that. They're going to do that. All right, guys, we're going to go. It's been a crazy stream. I love you all. Thanks for being based. Stick around. We got a Fast Facts premiere. Don't miss that. And I will catch you on the
You are coping the ceiling. You just can't believe what you're seeing. Yes, you're coping the ceiling. The truth it is all day, and now you are more